Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad that you joined us today as we present Outstanding Student Awards, the Making Hope Happen Award, and Shining Star Awards. We will begin by honoring our students first. The Board of Education is pleased to honor students, parents, volunteers, and staff from Emmerton, Highland-Pacific, Jones, and Muscoy Elementary Schools, and Pacific High School. The board recognizes outstanding students to build self-esteem and honor excellence in academics, athletics, fine arts, citizenship, and most improvement. The board also recognizes outstanding parents, volunteers, and our employees. The San Bernardino Symphony provides free concert tickets to all student and parent award winners and their families. And Assembly Member Mark Steiner's office is presenting certificates to all of our student honorees. Honorees, as we call your name, would you and your family please come forward to greet the board and take a photo with our superintendent? You can enter the receiving line right over here where our district photographer, Karina, is standing. Teachers, please join us when your student is called. We are also asked that our outstanding students remain standing next to the selfie wall for a group photo with all of the students from your school. And the selfie wall is right behind me. First, we have Emmerton Elementary School and Principal Laura Ramos. We'll start things off with second grader Diego Florido. Would you please join us? We also ask that Diego's proud parents, Teresa and Manuel Florido, come forward as long as they're Diego's teacher, Sandra Anderson. Diego has already mastered all of the high-frequency words, and he is eagerly expanding his vocabulary beyond that. He's always eager to take on new challenges, and right now, his goal is to play soccer and attend UCLA to study epidemiology. Let's give him a round of applause. Epidemiology is one of our medical careers, and this evening, Ina Tucker Westby from Dignity Health is here to present a special medical pen to students who are pursuing careers in the medical field. So let's give Dignity Health and Ina Tucker Westby a big round of applause. Next is second grader Emperor Martin and his proud family, Sherry Taylor, Hyantha Scott, and Amber Thomas, and Tom Scott. Would Emperor's teacher, Patricia Mondragon, also join us? Emperor has an amazing heart. He is kind and friendly with everyone. I noticed that myself when I came in. He is well-behaved, inquisitive, and enjoys a challenge, making him a model avid scholar. Emperor's long-term goal is to become a police officer. Let's give this future law enforcement professional a round of applause. I believe Chief Polino also has something to present to Emperor to prepare him for his career as a policeman. And our third student honoree is third grader Matara Tiava, who was nominated by teacher Jana Babbitt. Will Mataha's proud parents Belinda and Mitikiro Tiava please join us? Matara is a respectful and responsible young lady. She is doing well in reading, writing, and math, but she says math is her favorite subject. Matara says that she wants to become a middle school teacher and then become a famous hula dancer. So let's give Matara another round of applause. And I know that our assistant superintendent, Dr. Perry Wiseman, is always recruiting future employees, and he has a special presentation as well that it will be presented at the school site. Let's give these Emmerton Eagles another round of applause. Would Alimi Castillo and her family please join us? Adelimi goes above and beyond to support Emmerton and all of the Emmerton students. She is willing to do whatever it takes to make Emmerton a successful community-based school. The Emmerton staff are grateful for her help. Let's give this outstanding parent volunteer a big round of applause. And now I'd like to invite Community Relations Worker 2, Karen Dunns, to come forward, along with any family members. Karen is passionate about her work and passionate about serving the Emmerton community. She always puts students first and has built strong partnerships with parents that benefit the entire school community. Let's give Karen a big round of applause for being our outstanding classified employee for Emmerton Elementary. Our next Emmerton honoree is third grade teacher Sandra Anderson. Sandra is dedicated to student success. She has increased technology used on campus and led the health initiative for the school site. Thanks to Sandra, Emmerton is more technologically advanced and also a healthier school. Let's give Emmerton Elementary a big round of applause. Thank you. Next, we will welcome our honorees from Highland-Pacific Elementary School. Will Principal Yvette Peters please join us up front? And we would like to welcome Heaven Calloway, a fifth grader in Andrew Kabatsit's class. Heaven, would you please come forward along with your proud parents, Abby and Edward Calloway, and Sister Ashley. Please join us. Heaven is the type of student who every teacher wishes she would have in her class. She works hard, participates in classroom discussions, and she also likes to help people. So she's thinking of becoming a doctor or owning her own bakery. Let's give Heaven a big round of applause. And we will present the award if she makes it in later today. Next is Alyssa Villarreal, a third grader in Tracy Ross's class. Would Alyssa and her proud parents, Saran Mies and Raimundo Villarreal, please join us up front? Alyssa never hesitates to seek out information or help anyone overcome a challenge. She is a model for her classmates, not only academically, but because of her strong moral character and compassion. Alyssa says she wants to attend college and write a mystery comic book. I can't wait to read that, Alyssa. Let's give her a big round of applause. Now we honor 6th grader Achilles Warcry Hart Zavala with Achilles and his proud parents Alicia Rodriguez and James Zavala. Please join us. We also invite his teacher Vicky Guzman to please come forward. Achilles Warcry is a true leader at Highland-Pacific. He wants to study computer science and robotics at Cal State San Bernardino, and he wants to become a game designer. Let's give him a big round of applause. And let's have Alyssa stay right over there. We're going to do a special presentation. We have Sindra Weber. Would you please come forward? She is going to present a special presentation to these amazing students. Let's give Sindra a round of applause as she goes forward. I'll read it. Sindra Weber has made arrangements to honor 2 of our Native American students with a special blanket ceremony. And Achilles is right there with Dr. Marsden. We'll get him in the picture. Oh. This is a very special tradition. We can take a group picture with the rest of the board in the center. Sindra, come on up with them. And now we would like to welcome our Outstanding Parent Award winner from Highland-Pacific, Mia Cooper, and her family. Would you please come forward so that we can honor you? Mia is chairperson of the School Site Council and serves on the district's advisory and English language advisory committees. She is an active and respected voice for students and the community. Let's give Mia Cooper a big round of applause. Also from Highland-Pacific is Education Assistant 3, Garfield Hall, who's established an outstanding rapport with his students. Let's welcome Garfield to the front, and any family members that are here, please come forward. The students at Highland-Pacific know Mr. Hall, and he knows each of them by name. He is passionate about his work and consistently demonstrates professionalism and fairness. Let's give Education Assistant 3, Garfield Hall, another big round of applause. Our next honoree is Melinda Goggin, a special day class teacher from Highland-Pacific for the 4th through 6th grades. Let's give Melinda a big round of applause. As Melinda comes forward, let me share a little bit about her. Since arriving at Highland-Pacific, the number of SDC referrals and suspensions have substantially decreased, and her students have good things to say about how fair and kind she is. Melinda is a true asset to the Highland-Pacific team. Let's give this outstanding certificated employee a big round of applause. Next up is Jones Elementary School. So will Principal Cretia Sims Robinson please come forward? The first student to be honored from Jones Elementary is Kimberly Martinez, a 6th grader. She is in Isora's Ramirez Villa's class, and would Miss Ramirez Villa and Kimberly's proud parents, Saul Barajas and Martitza Martinez, please join us up front. Kimberly, here she comes, is an English learner, but she hasn't let that challenge stop her from serving for 3 years on the student council and helping incoming students successfully transition into Jones Elementary's learning environment. Kimberly says she plans to study nursing at Valley College before transferring to UCLA. So we know our friends from Dignity Health will be presenting her with a medical pin to support her and her future medical career. Let's give Kimberly a big round of applause. Will 3rd grader Chloe Mendez please join us? We also invite Chloe's proud mother, Sylvia Mendez, to join us, along with her teacher, Talina Hill. Chloe is an exemplary student who is dedicated to her studies. She is achieving at or above grade level in reading and math. Chloe says she wants to attend Harvard University and someday become a surgeon. Let's give her a big round of applause. And this is another one of our outstanding future medical career professionals, so we thank Dignity Health. Our next honoree is 3rd grader Melanie Reyes. Will Melanie please come forward? And her proud parents are Jose Reyes and Dana Heron. Would they and Melanie's teacher, Jenny Cardenas, and her counselor, Lindy Razzo, please join us? Melanie is a great role model. She is respectful, responsible, and she works very hard in school. She is in the dual language program and is reading at a 4th grade level. Melanie says she wants to become a biliterate teacher someday. Let's give this future educator a big round of applause. While our outstanding students pose for a group photo, let's welcome our next group of honorees. Anna Villabazo is an Outstanding Parent Award winner from Jones. Anna, would you and your proud family please join us? Anna is very involved in the school. She attends school site council and English Learner Advisory Committee meetings, as well as other parent and district meetings. Jones is privileged to have her supporting their scholars. Let's give another round of applause to Anna. Our classified honoree from Jones is Bilingual Attendance Assistant Noelia Mendez. Would you please come forward? Noelia is a trustworthy, knowledgeable, and enthusiastic employee. She helps to maintain a positive school culture at Jones Elementary and treats everyone with respect. She is a wonderful example of how we can achieve success by consistently and effectively helping others. Thank you, Noelle. Our outstanding certificated employee is third grade teacher Talina Hill. She's already been up here once this evening to have a student honored, but she is an outstanding educator. And now we're going to honor her exceptional skills and her dedication to the district and the students at Jones Elementary. Talina is focused on making sure her students are able to grow and succeed every year, and she does it with a positive attitude. Talina is an employee who truly makes hope happen. Let's give her another round of applause. Our next honoree is Muscoy Elementary School and Principal Dana Jameson. As Principal Jameson makes her way forward, please welcome sixth grader Diana Moran and her proud mother, Lucia Peralta. Will both of you, along with Diana's teacher, Melissa Esquivel, please join us. Diana is a pleasant and positive student. As a result of her hard work and growth mindset, she has made tremendous academic progress. She is advanced by 2 grade levels in reading, and she says she wants to go to college and eventually work in a bank. Let's give Diana another round of applause. The next honoree is 5th grader Ariana Puga. Would Ariana's proud parents, Eric Puga and Elena Frias, and any other family members please join us, along with teacher Lisbeth Jacobo. Ariana is always thinking of others. She helps out at school, and she does it with a smile. She even helped launch a clothing drive for the needy. Ariana knows she wants to attend college, but she hasn't decided which one yet. She still has some time. Let's give her a round of applause. Our final elementary student honoree is Nigel Tamayo, a first grader. Nigel's teacher is Lori Van Kruningen, and would Nigel and his teacher and his proud parents, Jose and Dominica Tamayo, please join us. Nigel is a model citizen. He is an active listener and an active classroom participant. Although he struggled a little in kindergarten, he is now working at grade level in all subjects. Nigel says he wants to become a firefighter. Let's give him a big round of applause. While the students pose for a photo, let's invite parent volunteer Maria de Pilar Obregon and her family to join us. Maria has served on Muscoy's School Site Council and on the English Learners Advisory Committee for years. Her commitment to her children's education is evident in everything she does. Let's give this outstanding parent volunteer a big round of applause. Our outstanding classified employee is Flavia Sandoval Perez. Let's welcome Flavia up front. She works with small groups of students so she can focus and adjust her tutoring methods based on the individual needs of the student. As a result, her students show great gains and truly benefit from her help. Thank you, Flavia, for being an outstanding employee. Our outstanding certificated employee is 6th grade teacher Christina Razzo. Will you please come forward? Christina is devoted to her students, and her kindness and positive attitude are contagious. She has become an expert on embracing a growth mindset and community circles, and she's always willing to share what she knows with her coworkers. Christina is truly a great teacher and an outstanding employee. Let's give our recipients from Muscoy another big round of applause. And our last school to be honored, we have Pacific High School and Principal Dr. Natalie Raimundo. Would you please come forward? Our first honoree from Pacific High School is 12th grader Marissa Acasio and her proud grandmother, Inez Valverde. Let's give them a round of applause as they make their way forward. And we'd also like to invite Marissa's teacher, Elizabeth Lindsay, to join us. Marissa is a kind, giving person. She helps her classmates and volunteers regularly with the Suchi food distribution program, and she's also taking advanced placement courses at Pacific. Marissa wants to major in psychology or sociology, and she plans to become a high school counselor. Let's give Marissa a big round of applause. Next is 9th grader Miranda Owen. Would her proud parents, Jonathan and Sonia Owen, please join us up front? And will Miranda's teacher, Sonia Pulver, also come forward? Ladies and gentlemen, Miranda has a 4.0 GPA. Yes, give her a round of applause. She ranks 3rd on the school's singles tennis team, and she plans to try out for basketball and track and field. Miranda says she wants to attend college and search the multiple opportunities that the world has to offer. Let's give Miranda a big round of applause. Our final outstanding student is 11th grader Joseph Pratt. Let's give him a big round of applause as he comes forward with his proud parents, Benjamin and Shannon Pratt. Also, would Carmel Brand and Joseph's teachers please join us? Joseph is known for his hard work and positive attitude and kindness. He plays football on the varsity team, and he plays string bass in the City Honor Orchestra. Joseph plans to attend a university in California, but he hasn't decided on a school or a major yet, but we know that he will be successful. Let's give Joseph a big round of applause. Will the Pratt family please remain standing while the outstanding students pose? Benjamin Pratt is Pacific's outstanding parent volunteer. Let's give him a big round of applause. Benjamin has been a part of the Pirate family for more than 5 years. He has dedicated countless hours to helping the Pacific football and wrestling teams, and he goes above and beyond to make sure student athletes have food, clothing, and a place to stay. Let's give another round of applause to this outstanding parent volunteer. Our outstanding classified employee is Secretary 1, Lonnie Gomez. Would you please come forward? Let's give her a round of applause. She has a can-do attitude. She supports student athletes by attending football games and also by coaching the softball team. She has also worked to improve internal systems to make the school run better. And Lonnie makes Pacific a fun place to work. Let's give her another round of applause, and if she makes it, we will present the award later. Our final honoree from Pacific is Rebecca Huff, Program Specialist. Let's give her a big round of applause. Rebecca supports Pacific in dozens of ways. She is involved in staff development, new teacher onboarding, instructional rounds, and she is a big supporter of the college and career pathway at Pacific. Rebecca truly exemplifies the basics of excellence in all that she does. Let's give all of our outstanding students, employees, and parent volunteers another big round of applause. We've got our district photographer getting in lots of extra steps tonight. Now it's time to present the Making Hope Happen Award. This is a very special honor reserved for those individuals who've made it their mission to spread hope in our community. This award was created by our superintendent, Dr. Marsden, and has only been bestowed upon a handful of people. When I call your name, please come forward to be recognized, and we also invite your family to join us. For the past 15 years, Bill Campi has made significant contributions to help hundreds of sick people begin the healing process. Bill is not a doctor or a medical professional, but his gift has saved many lives nonetheless. Bill is a graduate of San Gorgonio High School, and for the past few years, he's worked as a graphic design assistant in the communications department. He is a rare universal donor of plasma and platelets. And recently, Bill donated his 50th gallon to live stream, where the motto is give hope, give life, give blood. Livestream estimates that Bill's donation of platelets and plasma has impacted the lives of nearly 1,500 people, many of them fighting cancer. His donations have also helped burn victims heal from their burns. Because of his longstanding commitment to give hope and to give life to those fighting the toughest health battles, the Board of Education and Superintendent Marsden present the Making Hope Happen Award to Bill Campi. Let's give him another round of applause. And now it's time to express our sincere gratitude to the dedicated guest teachers, rec aides, and substitute employees who work in the San Bernardino City Unified School District. They are an important part of our district's mission to make hope happen for our students and our entire community. So it gives me great pleasure to present the Board of Education's 2018 Shining Star Awards for exemplary service to 9 individuals who represent the many outstanding guest teachers and employees in our district. And I would like to give special thanks to the leaders of our employee unions for helping us to select such worthy honorees. When I call your name, please come forward to receive your Shining Star Award. And we invite the administrators and staff of your school, as well as any family members, to please come forward. Our guest teachers will be honored first, beginning with Urbita Elementary guest teacher, Karen Andrade. Karen is our first Shining Star recipient. She's served as a guest teacher in the district for the past 8 years. As Urbita's resident substitute teacher, Karen wears many hats, including test administrator. One of her most important duties in running Urbita's Learning Academy, where Karen provides reading intervention to students. Please give Karen another round of applause. Our next honoree is San Gorgonio High School resident guest teacher, Barbara Hamilton. Will Mrs. Hamilton please come forward? Barbara has worked at a few district schools, always making a name for herself by truly caring for students. No matter where she goes, Barbara delivers high-quality instruction and still manages to find time to tutor students. She is optimistic and caring, and teachers appreciate her eagerness to collaborate with them. Let's give Barbara another round of applause. Our third guest teacher from Henry Elementary is Tracy Phillips. Will Tracy and her proud team please come forward? When it comes to teaching, Tracy is always guided by her desire to meet the academic and social needs of all students, including children with special needs. When Tracy fills in for fellow teachers, they can rest assured knowing that learning in their classroom will continue at the highest level. Tracy is creative and uses her flair to create colorful and informative bulletin boards. Tracy, thank you for your dedication and for serving the students at Henry. Our next Shining Star Award recipient is teacher Kristen Smith, and she's a resident substitute at Cypress Elementary. Please come forward. Kristen has dedicated more than a decade to serving our students and has truly made a name for herself. In fact, teachers specifically ask her to cover their classrooms when they're called away. Kristen is reliable and trustworthy, and her sense of service is evident in all that she does on behalf of students and teachers. We salute Kristen with this Shining Star Award. Let's give her a round of applause. Our fifth and final guest teacher to receive the Shining Star Award is San Gorgonio High's Ruby Taliz Ramirez. Will Ruby please come forward along with Principal Clark? Ruby has an exceptional work ethic. She is a dynamic educator who combines compassion and discipline to motivate students to excel. Ruby is so dedicated to serving students that many of them don't know she's a resident substitute. She collaborates with teachers to target the specific learning needs of students. Ruby, congratulations on your Shining Star Award. And now we will honor our first classified Shining Star Award, which goes to Rec Aide Sophia Lopez from North Verdamont Elementary School. Please come forward with your family and staff members. Sophia has been with the district for 10 years. She is positive and uplifting in all her interactions with students, especially those who have more frequent interactions with her. Sophia goes above and beyond her yard duties to organize an annual student talent show, holding auditions, and lovingly coaching students. Sophia, we express our gratitude to you with this Shining Star Award. Congratulations. The next Shining Star Award goes to King Middle School Substitute Custodian Emmerton Maldonado. Would you please come forward? Emmerton is humble and kind, always providing service with a smile. Whether he's working at the WA building to keep it clean or tending to custodial duties around a school, Emmerton does his job with pride and joy. He really enjoys working with special education students in the transition program. Congratulations, Emmerton, and thank you for doing such a great job. Next up is clerical substitute Alicia Rivera, who works in human resources. Alicia, as you and your family and coworkers come forward, we congratulate you for your dedication to human resources. Alicia's many duties include ensuring that other substitute employees are hired in a timely manner. She provides great customer service to those visiting the Human Resources counter at the Professional Development Center. Alicia is professional and courteous in all of her interactions with employees and the public. Alicia, we salute your hard work with this Shining Star Award. Congratulations. And our final Shining Star Award recipient is Elizabeth Ruiz Barragan. She works as a clerical substitute right here at Indian Springs High School. She is Principal Kristen Bikendova's interim secretary. Elizabeth is known as efficient and detail-oriented. Whether she works at an office one day or 1 month, she takes her responsibilities seriously. Elizabeth fits right in wherever she goes, and her knowledge of the district and its processes are an asset wherever she goes. Congratulations, Elizabeth, on your Shining Star Award. Ladies and gentlemen, let's show our gratitude to every employee honored today with another round of applause. This concludes our awards program. Thank you.
1 School Board Appointment of Personnel Commission, Education Code 45246 requires the governing board to publicly announce the name of the person it intends to appoint or reappoint. The board member's nominee was announced on September the 25th, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Marsden? Oh, well, first of all, let me ask Dr. Marsden, are there,
No comment cards, Madam President.
okay. So let's go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. So let me go ahead and read this. Be resolved that the Board of Education authorizes the reappointment of Michael Salazar by the San Bernardino Unified School District Board of Education for a 3-year term effective December 2nd, 2018 through December 1st, 2021. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead now, 4.0 closed session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam President. No comments for closed session.
All right, we are back. Thank you for being so patient. I will now convene open session. 6.0 action required, so I'm going to go ahead and read out the handouts right here. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the appointing of the following employee: Fraser Kirk, Middle School Vice Principal, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., Middle School. Effective date, work year, and salary to be determined, funding 035. As well as we're going to be voting on both at the same time. Zavala Cynthia, Elementary School Vice Principal, Hillside University Demonstration School. Effective date, work year, and salary to be determined, funding 035. Can I have a motion? Any discussion? If not, let's go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay, motion carried, and congratulations. Do we have the new appointed principals or vice principals here? No? Okay, well, congratulations. Maybe they're watching from TV.
That's right.
All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go to 7.0. We have 2 board members, Jocelyn and Kashmir. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Jocelyn if you can share some board comments, student board comments.
Hello, so I'm Jocelyn. I was told to speak about my school. So I'm part of Academic Decathlon. I've been part of this team for 3 years now, and it wasn't there my freshman year. But this Saturday we're having our scrimmage in Montana, so we're excited about that. We're going to be taking 10 tests in different subjects and trying to see how well we do. And recently I just traveled to New York 2 times to go to different flying programs for different universities. And this weekend I'm also going to be traveling to Cleveland, Ohio for another flying program, so that's exciting. And yeah, I'm in the middle of college applications, so that's obviously a process that requires a lot of time management, and I feel for my other senior peers in the community who also are going through this process. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you
great.
so much.
Thanks for representing.
Great. And then Kashmir?
Hello, Casmir Middleton. Senior year is stressful because I'm into so many things, but I'm in the play 39 Steps. If you guys feel free to come, it's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Doors open at 7 p.m., $7 at the door, $5 pre-sale. I'm gonna be in the play, so it's worth watching. So I'm just kidding. I'm not like that sometimes.
But
Just
it's still
kidding.
worth watching,
But
though.
yeah, it's worth watching. I'm going to Washington, D.C. Never been to any other state besides California and Nevada. Next week, from the 14th through the 18th, from the JAG program. I'm very excited. It's for a conference, and so that's exciting. I haven't started college applications. I'm scared. But it's fine. I'll start them later. And yeah, I'm excited to work with you guys. Thank you.
All right,
Very
thank
good.
you for sharing. That's great. Yeah, good job. Let's give them a round of applause.
That's right.
We have amazing student board members. All right, 8.0, public comments. This is the time during the agenda when the Board of Education is prepared to receive comments from members of the public on any matter within its subject matter jurisdiction. When recognized, please step to the podium, give your name, and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. The limit of public comments by 6 or more individuals on one topic is 30 minutes. Please monitor your time, and it will be on your left. If I get it right, yes. Dr. Marsden?
Thank you, Madam President. The board welcomes Alex Lucero on the topics of New Vision and IE Empire. Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening, Board President Medina, board members, and Superintendent Marsden. As you know, my name is Alex Lucero, and I'm the CEO of Real Journey Academies. First, I'd like to take this time to thank the San Bernardino City Unified School District staff for all their hard work and dedication in always putting students first. Next, I just want to say we agree with the resolutions to recommend New Vision Middle School and Empire for additional 5 years. And finally, just want to say that we are very proud to be part of the SBCUSD family. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Board now welcomes Riley Fort and Addison Rusk, has an invitation to the SOAR Charter Academy's Christmas Play. So good evening and welcome.
Hi, my name is Addison Rusk, and I'm a student at SOAR Charter Academy. We would like to welcome you to our annual Christmas play. We have a new script called A Fairy Tale Christmas Carol. We invite you and your families to come December 17th and 18th. You can choose any days you would like to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss.
Can they bring you invitations?
Oh, great.
Oh, they
Thank
did,
you,
of
Miss
course.
Rusk and Miss Fort. And what time is that event?
It begins at 6 o'clock. Doors open at 5:30 at Sturgis, and they have invitations too.
Very good. Thank you. Please do.
All right, thank you
Can
so
they
much.
approach, or should they give them over here?
Absolutely.
No, they can approach. I think
Yeah,
they'll
they
be
can
fine.
come on up. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam President, those end all the public comments this evening.
All right, wonderful.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank you.
and they do have a wonderful play. I've been to, I think, one
Very
or
good.
two, and thank you for inviting us. This is
Thank
wonderful. Okay, we're going to go ahead. Thank you. We're going to go ahead 9.0, 9.1, overview of the state's accountability model, part 3, targeted support for school progress, TSSP. Dr. Marsden?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, Board, so this is, tonight is part 3 of our student achievement results. And as you have, I want to thank you for your leadership, providing direction around supporting our schools who do least well. And so we have now our targeted support for school progress schools, TSSP, not targeting schools, but targeting supports, because we have shifted from a blame and punish model to a build capacity model. And you'll hear that that's the message from the state, that we no longer have a blame and punish model, but we have a build capacity model. You'll hear that that is our message. It'll probably take us several years to uproot some of the fear that exists still in our system around the old punish accountability model. And so it's a delicate time, but being led well by our team. I want to thank Dr. Menares for her leadership of the effort and her new team and this new position that the board has helped to support. So again, board, I want to remind you that we know we have a long ways yet to go, but we are, as you've seen, exceeding all local comparable districts for our state testing results, except for Riverside and Redlands. Tonight, we're going to go deep into the school data around our TSSP schools, and you will see that because of the interventions, the efforts that are underway, systemic work around building the capacity of teams and leaders. 64% of our TSSP schools improved in English language arts, which is a very positive compliment, and then 54% improved in math. You'll hear detailed information on current and new actions to address where there's poor performance. I want to remind the board that in a recent conversation we had with Douglas Reeves, who is leading a work with our teachers on D's and F's, he says that many districts often spend more energy and emotion on last year's data than they do on examining this year's actions to achieve results. Tonight, I'm confident you'll hear a balanced approach that demonstrates significant attention to our students who our system serves least well. At the end of the presentation, you'll hear from one of our TSSP principals who is seeing success in ELA data and is an example of moving school level and student group performance. So with that, Dr. Moneris and team, thank you.
Thank
and
you,
good
Dr.
evening.
Marsden. Good evening, President Rosales Medina, Vice President Rogers, esteemed board members. The team and I are excited to share with you what's currently happening at our Targeted Support for School Progress TSSP schools, what's happened and where we're going. You'll notice that, again, this is part 3 of our CASP data, really taking a slice, digging deeper into our TSSP schools. You're going to hear tonight from Ms. Bita Sakala could not be here, our SBTA president, but we have Ms. Pastachek, the the SBTA vice president, who will be speaking on behalf of SBTA. You, of course, will hear from me. You're going to hear from Chris Coling, our principal at Hunt Elementary School, and one of our teachers at Indian Springs, Denisha Culverson, who is also part of our TSSP problem-solving team. So they're sitting behind me, and then, of course, my support and ongoing for continuous improvement, Mr. Aldo Ramirez. So I want to thank the board and Mr. Tillman specifically for the foresight in developing and allocating funds for direction and supporting our schools with the greatest need. Furthermore, I want to thank the board for the establishment of a new division, which is continuous improvement. You took action on that last spring. TSSP came to play in 2016, spring of 2016, but the board had the foresight to say we need to be even more targeted for these schools, and so repurposing an assistant superintendent position and creating continuous improvement. We want to thank the board for that and assure you that we are doing everything that needs to happen to support these schools to move forward. This action really demonstrates that the board is not waiting for the state or federal policy to tell you what needs to happen, but really taking direction and leading the charge for your students in this district and leading the charge in the state. So thank you for doing that. We'll go ahead and move to the next slide. So tonight's outcomes. We're going to share the CAS data as it relates to our targeted support for school progress schools. And then we're going to share the above and beyond improved student performance for these schools. So you're going to hear some review of what's happening through educational services. Dr. Mitchell will speak to that. And then we will talk about how we're augmenting and adding and enhancing what's already happening for our schools most specifically. Next slide. Just so that we're all on the same page. TSSP schools were established again spring 2016, and the identification criteria for these schools were 4 indicators. Our CAS scores language arts and math, suspension and chronic absenteeism, school-wide for our African American student group and for our English learner student group at the schools. And so initially when those indicators were pulled together, we had a list of schools that you can see up there, and that was spring 2016. From there, we have our current TSSP schools, and so there has been some change. You can see that there are 9 schools that have remained in the category of TSSP, but some have exited, and then some have entered. The schools that we're working with this year and for sure next year, and then we plan on them not being TSSP, is what's circled right there. You see 8 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, and 3 high schools. Next slide. These are the schools that actually exited TSSP, again, just so the board can see that. So you can see quite a few elementary schools. You'll note Holcomb is in that group. We heard from Holcomb last week. Not only did Holcomb exit TSSP, but they have continued to sustain their growth. And so that's a school that we look at as a model. But you know, there are great practices happening within our TSSPs, pockets of success that we want to dig deeper into, create structures for collaboration amongst those schools, and then scale. So we'll talk further. San Bernardino High School was one of the first high schools, but quickly did not stay in TSSP, and they too continue to progress in their movement. Next slide. So here's our driving question, and this is really the question that we're using as a division with our schools, is this idea of how do we learn with and from our schools, with our students in our district? How do we scale what they're doing? So maybe starting with pilots and taking on a greater scale. And then how do we attain sustainability when it comes to school improvement for San Bernardino City Unified? So these schools create a structure by which we can study what's happening in our schools, learn from, and grow. And as I shared, pockets of success already happening. You're going to see that board, areas for improvement, and how we're bringing them all together. I'd actually like Ms. Pastachek to come up and speak further on how we're collaborating with SBTA on this.
Good evening. Since the establishment of the Continuous Improvement Division, SBTA has worked closely with Dr. Menares to ensure that the voices of educators are included at every step as we work collaboratively to expand student learning and achievement. SBTA and the district came together to establish a side letter agreement in the fall of 2016 that established common agreements between SBTA and the district, as well as calling for the creation of a joint problem-solving team, which I will give further information a little later.
Thank you, Ms. Pastachek. So going with the core principle and core belief that we include people in the decisions that impact them from the very beginning, our collaboration with SBTA, we firmly believe, will help to move and accelerate the performance at these schools, and again, learn with and from. So this slide is just to remind the board, in spring 2016, you approved a plan, a TSSP plan. I'm going to go quickly through them, and then we'll be going back to this slide just in terms of thoughts, right? So we, and this was actually prior to my arrival, but great insight on behalf of the cabinet and the board on what needs to happen for school improvement. So the plan included data analysis, so a system around data analysis, really looking at how you analyze data, the selection of assessments, those type of things. An instructional model defining expectations for what classroom instruction should look like, sound like, and feel like. Instructional leadership, so developing a coherent system of coaching and accountability and really supporting our site leaders as they move our schools forward. Instructional supervision, which goes hand in hand with the leadership and the instructional model. So we work with our teachers, we support them in that movement, we coach them, we create opportunities for them to learn with and from each other. Formative assessments, Mr. Gallo speaks to this a lot. How are we measuring where our children are at, and how are we monitoring as they're moving along, and then what's the early intervention, so that when we see them starting to struggle, we move in quickly and put those safety nets in place. So that's part of the TSSP plan. Then we respond to the instruction and the intervention, that's number 6. So when we see children are not succeeding like we know they can, that there's a systematic approach to doing that. Number 7 is specific to TSSP. So the TSSP plan 1 through 6 is systems work for all of our schools in our district. Number 7 is then the above and beyond supports specifically for TSSP. So as we work in continuous improvement, we're working with educational services, with student services, with HR on 1 through 6, and then number 7 is specific to continuous improvement in our TSSP schools. Next slide. And so, because we want to make sure that you're clear on your return on investment, you allocated a certain amount of money to support this work. The systems work that I just referred to, 1 through 6, you can see an outline of how those funds have been allocated for last year, and then for this year, we added the continuous improvement work. And so for district systems work, 1 through 6, $3.55 million. Next slide. We also have school systems work, and we'll talk further about what this school systems work looks like. But in the plan, under Section 7, there was language around student goal setting and student incentives. So we've allocated at $134,000 to support our schools in developing a student incentive system. I'll talk about that further. 21st century learning environments is also going to be allocated to support our schools so that by the end of next school year, our elementaries, our middle schools have the learning environments that really would support 21st century learning. Our high schools will look a little bit different. They're just much bigger, but we're working with facilities on that work. And then the last school system support is this idea of extended learning time. And again, I'll talk further on that, but $619,000 were allocated to that. So that comes close to $2 million for school system supports. And then on top of that, the schools receive their own allocations to further support professional development and their professional learning foci based on how the school feels was needed for that school. So in total, you can see between the two slides that that's how your $6.2 million that you allocated for TSSP has been expended thus far. So let's look at how this has produced. What's the data looking like? I'm going to quickly go through some data statements and then we'll look deeper into the actual slides. We have some reasons to celebrate, board, especially when it comes to language arts. So you can see that our TSSP schools increased their average scale score by 11.8 average scale score points compared to the district average of 6.7. So doubled that. In language arts, TSSP scores for our African American student group increased by 11.4 average scale score points compared to the district 4.8. So again, learning with and from what's going on in our schools, our TSSP schools are doing things for African American students that we want to dig deeper into so we can share those practices across the district. Number 3, TSSP language arts for our Latino student group increased at our TSSP schools 11.5 average scale points compared to the district 7.3. And finally, when we look at our English learner student group at our TSSP schools, we disaggregated the data just like Dr. Mitchell did. In fact, Dr. Mitchell's team does all of this. We want to thank them. Our English learner only group was 15.7 average scale score points. And then when you combine EL and RFEP, it was 10.8. No, sorry. RFEP is 10.8, and EL and RFEP is 13.9. So lots of reason to celebrate when it comes to language arts and really looking at how our TSSP schools, what they're doing and what we can scale. Our next slide is our mathematics. So just like the state, math continues to be an area of greater need for our TSSP schools as well as our district-wide, but there's some areas to celebrate here as well. So when we look at number 4, the TSSP schools, they increased 1.8 average scale score points compared to the district 2.1. So not a big difference between, but then if you look at number 5, as a district, well, let me read it so I don't confuse you. For our African American student group, the TSSP schools increased 2.7 average scale score points. And you may remember from last board presentation that the district was an actual decrease of 1.8. So again, some intentional work going on at our TSSP schools when it comes to our African American student group. For the Latino Hispanic student group at our TSSP schools, it increased 1.1 average scale score points, and the district was 2.7. And then finally, our English learner groups, there's a positive increase. So our EL only is a 7 average scale score points increase, and our RFEP was 2.3, while our EL and RFEP was 2.3. However, there was a decline in our RFEPs just by themselves at our TSSP schools. So when we hear from Ms. Colling, we're going to hear what's been going on at Hunt. Specifically, you're going to see some nice data for our ELs. So board, this is just a reminder on how to read our supposedly not confusing way of monitoring our schools and measuring improvement. So when we start on the status side, so you want to start there first. We know that we've identified our TSSP schools because they are going to be at the low and very low. So all of our TSSP schools are going to be down in that orange and the red. That's why they're identified as TSSP schools. But then when we look at the change, we look to see, have they increased? Are they moving over? And you will see, and Mr. Ramirez will pass out now, that most of our TSSP schools, a good percentage of them, have moved over to that increased and increased significantly on the change column. So most of them on the dashboard will be in the orange and the yellow. And so Mr. Ramirez is passing that out, and we'll allow you to look at that on a different time. We'll keep going through this. But a lot of the positives that I just shared and the areas for growth are are on the previous slides. And again, want to remind the board what we do with this information. We don't want to perseverate on it a lot, but what we do want to say is, all right, so if we see schools that have increased significantly for our African American youth and for English learner youth, in those two content areas, then we want to find out what's going on at those schools, right? So pockets of success so that we can scale and replicate. All right, so you've seen this slide. Dr. Mitchell presented it last time. And so now this is a district level view of how our schools have progressed. So just a reminder, I've said all the data, and now I'm going to show you the slides on it. So meet standards. Remember that what we're always moving towards is for our schools to be meeting standards, our students meeting standards at a 3. And so when we say average scale score points, we're talking about how far away the school is as a whole, and then how the student groups are from 3, which again is what we would call in the past being at grade level, right? Being proficient, but we don't call it proficient anymore. We say they're meeting standards. So we're always talking about what's the movement towards 3. So you can see in math as a district, we were 2.1 scale score points change towards meeting standards, right? And that's why we were orange on that multicolored 5x5. For our TSSP schools, they had a 1.8, this is specifically in math, change. So both TSSP and district would, on the 5x5 multicolor chart, be considered orange because we maintained scores, right? We didn't have significant increase. When we look at our language arts, as a district, we were at 6.8 average scale points towards meeting standards, right? Towards moving towards 3, and that is a yellow, right? We have increased. As a TSSP group, 11.8 average scale score points increase, which would still be a yellow. They would have to get to 15 average scale points increase to move up to green. Does the board understand that? So you have to picture this as a continuum, as a number line, and we're all trying to get to 3 because that's grade level. And then the state is saying, as long as you're getting sufficient progress moving towards grade level, then we have these varying levels. Some of it's not enough progress, like our math, and then some is significant. And so you can keep moving down the continuum. Next slide. So now what are we doing to address this? So the next 2 slides, I've asked Dr. Mitchell to remind the board. You've seen all of these. You saw them in the last presentation. But what's happening at a district level in the systems work around supporting all of our schools? Once Dr. Mitchell talks about and reminds the board of what's happening for all of our schools, then I'll speak to what's happening specifically for the above and beyond for our TSSP schools. So Dr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Dr. Monarez. So board, as we shared over the last 2 board meetings, the district's response to student underperformance is largely encapsulated by our growing the skill and knowledge of our teachers and staff. So the next 2 slides will see the heavy investments we're making in both financial and human resources to grow the school leaders' abilities as well as classroom teachers' abilities. And so one of our biggest things that we've done this year is implement the district's early literacy plan. So this is a full plan for all pre-K to 5 teachers around literacy that we've pushed out this year. We'll continue to provide technical support and training and coaching to site leaders to align their professional development, planning and collaboration, and instructional supervision systems. That alignment is really key for teachers to get better. It's really about creating adult learning systems and monitoring them effectively. The third bullet you'll see there is around data literacy, and this is something that Mr. Gallo has touched on often around improving our site leaders and teachers' ability to read, analyze, and interpret formative assessment data so that teachers are making real-time, on-the-ground changes to instructional practices to address the deficits or strengths that kids are bringing to the classroom. Next slide. Next, our elementary teachers, as you can see from the statewide view, as well as countywide and district-wide, our struggles with mathematics instruction. And so we've hired UCLA to come in and work with our elementary teachers, and we talked about this at length at the last board meeting around building the content knowledge of our elementary teachers who are not necessarily trained in math. So we're really excited about this process and this partnership with UCLA. The second bullet there is we've asked a math expert trainer, Dr. Walton. She's been working across TSSP schools. We're expanding her work to work with non-TSSP schools. She really resonates well with teachers. She goes in, she coaches, she models. And so what teachers really appreciate that about her support is the real-time support in the classroom. As you know, humans learn best through modeling. And so having teachers inside the classroom with teachers really accelerates teacher learning in the classroom. The third bullet there is, again, our UCLA partnership and talking about secondary math. What we've done with all secondary math teachers is bring them in on Saturdays as well as during the week, where those teachers are then going through curriculum and the standards. The Common Core standards are complex, and it's really based upon conceptual understanding and not just computation. So we've moved from kind of computation-based mathematics to really understanding application-based mathematics, which is tougher to teach, and we have to teach it in a different way, and primarily shifting how teachers learn math, so that way they can teach kids how to think differently about math. So we're excited about that partnership. And lastly, we are launching an initiative where we're bringing our teacher leaders, that includes department chairs, program specialists, program facilitators. We rely heavily upon our teacher leaders that we've taken out of the classroom to support schools. And what we want to do with them is bring them to the district and teach them facilitation skills, key instructional strategies to support the improvements of the schools that they support. So I'll throw it back to Dr. Menarez. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. So board, you can picture, I want you to picture this, right? So we've got educational services, and we like to think of them as the base core for all of our teachers and our site leaders. All of our schools participate in the same site leader meetings. All of our schools have professional learning foci areas, and our principals have been leading that charge with their with their teacher teams. And our teachers have an opportunity to attend all kinds of professional development trainings. What continuous improvement then is doing is building on top of that and providing additional supports so that, as Dr. Mitchell said, there's that continuous support of adults learning with and from each other. So what we'll be talking about is how do we build off of what's happening district-wide and further bring it into the classroom so that our students are achieving like we know they can, and that our teachers are getting the opportunity to practice, collaborate with each other, the opportunity to see other teachers teaching, and then converse about them, and that our site leaders are getting the same. And so I'd like to bring up SBTA, Barbara Pastachek with SBTA, and a teacher from Indian Springs, Denisha Culverson, who will talk further about our first two bullets on this slide are targeted above and beyond supports.
SBTA believes that in order to foster a collaborative environment at these sites where positive student outcomes occur, there would need to be established open communication between SBTA, the district, and the TSSP sites. As we began our work with Dr. Menarez, we were able to put a pause on having outside consultants come in to guide the work. Instead, we've been able to access our existing resources so that we can be thoughtful and purposeful about what works for our staff and students in San Bernardino and build on the current successes. as we co-develop what a plan for success looks like for our students. The TSSP problem-solving team is made up of an administrator and teacher leaders from each TSSP site. To date, we've had 2 meetings. We're hopeful that this will create a forum for open communication between SBTA, the district, and the TSSP sites as we continue on this journey together.
Good evening. My name is Denisha Culberson. I am the unit member from Indian Springs High School. I attended both continuous improvement meetings, and what we've done so far is at the first meeting, we were introduced to continuous improvement and the purpose and goals of the TSSP. We used the collective knowledge in the room of the administrators, teachers, and others who were involved to, sorry, where am I at? With different school sites to come up with outcomes that we wanted to have happen from these meetings. We rated our level of understanding of the process and looked at our levels of confidence in completing these tasks in order to build this blueprint and to meet the goals that were set before us. During the second meeting, we took the information that we had provided during the first meeting and tied those the collective identified focus areas to actually looking at research-based best practices for school improvement. We broke into groups based on our areas of interest in terms of what we felt we would be best serving in terms of looking at creating a blueprint. We're planning on using this information to build what will be known as the SBCUSD Blueprint for Continuous School Improvement, and it will have key focus areas that are critical to help accelerate student achievement at each of the TSSP schools, and also can be used district-wide at schools who aren't necessarily identified as TSSP schools, but would still be able to be used. In each area, or in each focus group, the area of the blueprint will have key research findings. We are also looking at identifying schools that are already using practices that are working so that we can use within the blueprint, and then also using them as models to support other schools and looking at how they are successfully implementing strategies in that area. And also, we're also looking at adding resources that schools can use. So in addition to having just schools that are doing well, research-based practices, we will also have specific resources that can be used in order to promote that, to promote the process. But the main thing is focusing on looking at strategies that can be used across the board as opposed to programs. We want it to be something that any site can use as they're going through this process and using this blueprint. What I really liked about being a part of this process, honestly, was the continuous improvement program looking at using all stakeholders. So we had teachers in the room, we had administrators in the room, we had district management in the room, and we came together collectively to say, okay, what is it that we need in order to improve how our schools are doing? And we use that collective thinking in order to decide, okay, here are the areas that we want to focus on. What I'm excited about in the future is really using research in order to support what's working, looking at sites that are doing things well and being able to replicate that at other sites. So that way we strengthen and use our own knowledge base to really build this, plan, our blueprint. And I see that for me, like continuous improvement will continue to move this work forward by really using, like I said, the collective knowledge of everybody, and also having regular meetings so that it's not something that we discussed once and then we kind of went away from, but we actually have regular meetings. And also the use of strategic planning, bringing in key stakeholders who are really able to speak to what's needed for our schools, for example, using teachers, using administrators and different people, and saying, okay, here's what we notice we need, and then going from there in order to really develop something that will work for our scholars and really build this blueprint that will work for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Culverson. And I'm just going to add to, I was arrived late to the second TSSP problem-solving team meeting, but I walked into the room and it was just a positive buzz going on amongst the teachers, the administrators. Mr. Ramirez was leading that work, and everyone was just, everyone was engaged, excited, and just moving on the work. And so it's a really, and it was only our second meeting. So they are excited to make this happen. And I'm looking forward to having, as a district, for us to have this blueprint for how do we improve school performance. We can bring a model from outside, but it doesn't belong to us. So this is going to give us that opportunity for it to belong to us. Let me continue with what the above and beyond supports are. So we have also started pulling the TSSP site leaders to come and meet with us. They have their regular site leader meetings, and then we've started meeting with them for 2 hours a month to talk about what is specific to a TSSP school. And so we're going to really talk about change management and how do you support teachers with innovation as you're moving them forward, so that change is not always easy for people, but when you don't necessarily get into what their pushback is about, you may misunderstand. And so change management helps the leader to know where is the necessary supports for the teachers to get to that next level, and that's going to be that work that we're going to be working on. And that will become part of the blueprint for continuous improvement as well. So although I didn't want to pull principals off campus one more time, we felt the need to really provide, again, above and beyond supports for them. In addition, we go out, we walk the campus with the school, with the principals, and really talk about what's happening specifically. The last piece of the above and beyond target right now at a district level is this idea of designing the 21st century learning environments. We want to make sure that and when we talk about that, we're really talking about devices for students, the connectivity, because a device is not going to be useful if the connectivity to the internet is not continuous and ongoing. Furniture that supports collaboration doesn't necessarily have to be fancy and snazzy furniture, but that's something where children can move the desks easily so they can work in groups, they can do individualized, personalized learning, whatever needs to happen in that 21st century learning environment, all with the intention to access rigorous and relevant learning opportunities. So we're not looking for some fancy, shiny thing. What we're looking for is learning opportunities where children are thriving. So now let's take a look at, because we looked at the district level data, how are our students doing? What are the student groups looking like? And just a reminder, board, that TSSP have 4 identifiers, right? CASP, language arts, math, suspension, and chronic absenteeism, and specifically then how African American and English learner student groups are doing. And so those are the data points that we're going to look at, African American youth and our English learners. So just quickly going through here, I've already shared much of this information. Again, for language arts, much to celebrate, but just note that the African American youth doubled the growth of the district. African American and the Latino Hispanic had increased, had significant increase compared to district-wide. And so you can see accelerated growth for both our African American student group and our Latino scholars, an opportunity to dig deeper, investigate, scale, and then look at sustainability through these schools. When we look at our language arts for our English learners student groups, we have again broken it out. So we've got EL only, we've got RFEP only, and we've got EL and RFEP together. EL and RFEP is what is shown on the dashboard. Also areas to celebrate here. We can see that there's an accelerated increase of 15.7 average scale score points for our English learner only group, and then for our EL and RFEP combined, an increase of 13.9. So both groups significantly moving towards the number 3, meaning that they are at grade level, and so much to celebrate there. When we look at our math, again, we know that there's opportunities for improvement. And board, we hear you. Dr. Marston shared with Cabinet that for the board, TSSP mathematics at all 3 levels elementary, middle school, and high school is a priority. It's a priority for you. It's a priority for us. We will continue to work with our schools, and we'll share with you exactly what some of the work of what that's going to look like this year and for next year as well. But you can see that, when we look at our African American student group, TSSP had positive increase versus the district. So we want to take a look at what's been going on at those schools, work with educational services to start scaling that and replicating it. Math for our English learner student group. There's opportunity for improvement, we know. We want to investigate, though, again, those TSSP schools that our EL student group has increased by 7 points moving towards grade level. So that's more than what the district was doing, which was a 1.7 increase. So again, and then we want to take a look at what, for our RFEP students at our TSSP schools, what happened there. So talking with our principals to get some input on that, and then having them talk with their teachers, because we're not okay with that being a decrease. Next slide. So now what are we doing for these students, right? So for these particular student groups, and all of this is specific for TSSP and above and beyond, and I noted some of this when we went through the fiscal. So the first piece, this was in Section 7 of the TSSP plan to have opportunities for extended school day, year, or intersession. So basically extended school day tutoring, or extended school year summer program, right? Or some kind of intersession during winter or spring break. And so we have allocated funds, and we will be working with the schools to determine what that program will look like. Last summer, we contracted with Catapult, and they came in and they did a summer program for our students. This year, we're going to be able to design one that's specific by school for our schools, and the schools will determine which student needs to be a part of this and really target the instructional need. So that's, we're just starting to talk with our schools about that. And again, it's going to be specific to the school, not an outside vendor coming in and doing more of a one-size-fits-all approach. The next piece that we're doing as part of the TSSP program or plan, and there was language around a student goal setting. So we're going to facilitate with our schools the development of a school-level student incentive program, and it'll include goal setting. We'll have tiered levels of incentives and encourage individual student ownership. We have models of this already in our district board. We have this at Rodriguez, we have this at Riley, and we have this at Vermont. Mr. Ramirez was at all 3 of those schools, and he led this work. And so he'll be working with our school teams to design these programs. And the benefit of these programs is that the students become very excited about their learning. They want to earn those incentives. They want to move to the next level. You bring the parents in on this. It's a very advantageous program. And I believe actually Dr. Wiseman was one of the leads in starting this work at Rodriguez. So we will be replicating that and taking that to scale and putting it into a system whereby it can be sustainable, right? Number 3 is our really biggest push. And it's this idea, we're hiring 6 program specialist boards. So you approved a budget for us, and we came to you and we said, rather than going with an outside vendor, we would like to hire within, and this is what Ms. Pastachek was speaking about. We want to take our teachers and have our teachers learn with our teachers. And so we will be bringing some names to board very soon. We've already got 5 of the 6 identified, correct? We're very excited about these individuals. They are going to provide above and beyond supports through job-embedded lesson design, delivery, coaching, and mentoring. So our teachers go through lots of training with UCLA, you heard, with early literacy. They get a lot of training. The next step is the implementation, right? What does this look like in the classroom with our children on a regular basis? Because we're hiring 6, 4 of them are going to be specific to elementary. That means we have 8 elementaries that are TSSP. These program specialists will be they're going to be split between 2 elementaries. So 2 days a week, they'll be at one of their 2 elementary schools, which is more than what our TSSP principals get at this point, because our program specialists that are in educational services are serving all of our schools. These TSSP program specialists will only serve our TSSP schools. And we have been very clear that they are pedagogical specialists, meaning they are specialists in how to deliver instruction. If the content area is needed, they'll work with educational services to collaborate with them. We really want them to become a part of the TSSP family at those schools. So they'll help design that extended school day, extended school year. They will be modeling instruction. They will be a part of the school. They will be working with existing resources at that school to coordinate and make sure that what teachers are learning in their other settings, that it's getting into practice. So that's a big piece of the work. They'll also be a part of that TSSP problem-solving team. So they're really the connector between the learnings that teachers have in professional development, and then what does that look like in the classroom? And how do you respond when children aren't learning? The next piece, excited about this, I've already met with both of two of our parent advisory groups, our District African American Advisory Committee, that leadership board, as well as our DLAC. And both are very interested in partnering with us to help move this work forward with TSSP. I shared with them what's going on with this blueprint and the development of it, and that there is one element in the blueprint specific to student and family engagement. And so we're going to continue to figure out how we bring them together, but we really see that our DLAC and our District African American, they together will create some shared work, and collectively they will work with parents at these schools to move the work forward. So an opportunity for common work amongst them, as well as getting them into our TSSP schools to support our parents. So excited about that and know that that's going to really make a difference. And then the last piece, we already have, you've heard before about this board, our Opportunity Gap Specialist. You remember the OGSs? That comes out of equity and targeted supports. We've got English Learner, our ELFs that are supporting these TSSP schools, as well as school climate and culture coaches. So our program specialist, who will be the TSSP program specialist, they'll coordinate with those people so that we're not having too many things going on and everyone's working on the right information. So we're very confident that we have a multi-tiered approach to how we're working with our TSSP schools, and we have great expectations that this year we will see improvement, but we'll see even more improvement at the end of next school year.
And before you go to the schools, I just want to open it up for questions from the board. If we have anything, if we can have maybe from this down, Dr. White, and then we can head down, Dr. Flores.
I just wanted to make a couple comments. Thank you so much. This is really helpful to see that you have a plan, because that's what we had asked, to develop a plan, so that it looks like you have it all in line and so forth. So that's great. And I really like what Tanisha said, that programs don't teach, teachers teach. And that's clear. Research says it, and knowledgeable teachers teach. And the collective, collective knowledge that's shared among teachers, and also administrators that were teachers, and the leadership there, and the leadership between teachers. I think that's what's going to make the biggest difference. And I really appreciate that statement. I wanted to highlight that, because that is who's going to move the dial, is the teacher. And of course the parents and the principal leadership, but it is teachers. On page 10, on mathematics, wanted to make a comment. There it is. On number 7, that is disconcerting that with the RFEPs that they decreased by 5.3. So, and I'm glad that you stated, Dr. Monitis, that you're going to look into it to see why that happened. But also on the other hand, where we are gaining, what are the teachers doing, and what are the strategies that are being used, and so forth. And I think targeting and making visible what works and sharing it will take us a long way. But it is a little bit disconcerting. And then on page 13, Dr. Mitchell, I'm glad that we have a plan now, an early literacy plan, because best first teaching is really instead of focusing on remediation or intervention, it would, first best teaching is better, and enrichment, and so forth. And I really would like to see how that dovetails also with, footsteps to brilliance. How are we interfacing footsteps to brilliance, and are our teachers, what's the status of our teachers getting, seeing the dovetailing of how to support that in our parents as well. So I'd like to pose that, Dr. Marsden, in terms of seeing how that's coming to be. And then the last question I have is, why are Arroyo and Indian Springs High School not on the chart? Why don't we have their data on the charts? Can you answer that?
Yes, thank you. I meant to remind the board. So our CAS data is grades 3 through 8. And the high school, we're going to be sharing later the college and career indicator. Is that the right term, Dr. Mitchell? College and career indicator. So that will be forthcoming, and we'll do that as a combined. I think that might be next board meeting or soon. So
Well,
they take
don't
the
we
CAS
get the 11th grade data?
Correct, but it doesn't, and then I'm going to maybe turn it over to Dr. Mitchell to make sure I don't say this incorrectly, but it's a good test for me. It doesn't, the accountability system doesn't use the 11th grade as the college and career indicator. There are other measurements that they use, and that's what we'll be reporting on. Was I correct in that?
Yes. So again, as we talked about in the CAS, the new accountability system has moved high school performance under college and career indicator. It's one of 6 measures that we'll share, and I believe that is, Barbara, when is that, January? Yeah, so we'll bring the high school performance data in January with the college and career indicator. And so the accountability for high schools is not within achievement anymore, it's in college and career indicator. Mm-hmm. So we're giving what you're seeing today is CAS data grades 3 through 8.
Well, okay, so I would, if you're going to do it then, I would like to see the EL.
Yes,
the
absolutely.
EL data
Absolutely.
from the high schools. I also would like to see, I don't know how you assess the mathematics. Are there
So the kids are tested in
measures?
11th grade in math and English.
Uh-huh.
And so we'll share high school dropout, grad rate, EL across all the student groups, as well as the TSSP data.
Mm-hmm. And I also would like the LTELs.
Yeah, absolutely.
The LTELs, but also, it's kind of, I know we're using state data, but like Mr. Gallo always says, what are the formative assessments that
We'll share that
that we will use for the 9th graders, the 10th graders, and how do teachers know where the kids are?
So as we've shared in the past, we will bring formative data at all of the rest of the KPI presentations. And you can see this is the 3rd part of CASP. Well, you have a 4th part coming up with CCI or College and Career Indicator that you'll see high school data. Along with that, we're going to make sure that we share our benchmark and formative data with every KPI present that you're seeing. So what we've attempted to do, board, is really chunk this out. And I think we've made a mistake in past years by giving you so much data in so many areas in one night. So you imagine, this is typically done in one night. This is our 3rd night doing this, and we have the 4th one with the high school data.
Right. And I would like, because I know that Ms. Medina and Mrs. Rogers and I were on the D and F committee, I would like a report as well of student groups and the Ds and Fs across time in math and in, not just math and English, but also science.
That's a great idea.
The core classes, because that really should be our goal.
Thank you for your suggestion. We'll certainly do that.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That's
Thank
it.
you, Dr. Flores.
All right, thank you, Dr. Flores. Dr. Hill? None? Okay, Ms. Rogers?
Thank you so far on this. And just quickly, I wanted to, let's see, page 21. So number 3, and you indicated that you will be hiring program specialists. So far, all of the progress and what you've been looking at, we do not have we didn't have additional people working like they're working here?
Not yet. So all the progress was being done through, we have program specialists in educational services, and then the, the number 5 opportunity gap, those types of things. But no, that's why we think, no, we don't think, we know. We're going to have more improvement at the end of this year, but next year even more so, because we will have had a full year.
And you probably shared this in one of the board meetings, to arrive at, how do we arrive at 6 as a magic number?
So when Ashley and I sat down, we said, okay, so how much are we spending on the catapult contract that we were going to move forward on? And we said, what would be appropriate for the establishment of these supports for the schools? And that's when we said, we wanted enough that there was the 4 elementary to divide by the 8 schools, so we felt very comfortable with that. For the secondary, we actually created a model by which we would have a program specialist for middle and a program specialist for high school, and then we were talking about having what we were calling like a teaching program specialist at the schools as well. But because school got started, we can't put that into play yet because it impacts the master schedule. So right now we're going with 6, but we may decide to change up those program specialists that would be teaching, and instead have an additional middle school and an additional high school. So she and I need to sit down. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to talk about that with the problem-solving team. So initially, it was literally what would make most sense to get this started.
Okay. And I raised that because I know we've had some TSSP schools that went away, and then some, every year we will continue to evaluate, hopefully down to none, obviously, is the goal, but making sure, if we need more, or because when we get into splitting, if you have multiple, now you're stretching and stretching again, and for the work that we're looking to do specific for those schools, I would imagine, the more the person is there, the better it would be. And it's just the same thing. You answer my question about the opportunity gap, the OGSs, same thing. If this is in addition, because I remember a long while ago, someone approached me about the program specialist and increasing and what can we do. I brought it up before, and sometimes I get crickets when I bring things up because, for whatever reason. But if we can, if we can have, something that's working and not be afraid to say, okay, well, we're just going to work with 6. It's whatever we need in order to provide the supports, so that we're just not moving. Some are on the TSSP list, and then others get back on, is because that support is not there, and then it's this vicious cycle that continues. And I would also imagine, I was thinking also, we in all of our reports have been about the TSSP schools, and which is great because those were the most needed, for support. But again, as we look at the other schools that are not TSSPs, I imagine they still need some of these supports as well. So we don't want to do, what we've seen students do. We concentrate on here, and then we think everything else is going okay in the other locations, and then we're just adding them to the list, which hopefully the goal is to prevent them from ever becoming a TSSP school by making sure whatever is working at the TSSP schools, we're checking and making sure some of those same practices or some of those same supports are getting there. Otherwise, it's great to move them off, but then we're going to start asking you the question, well, why are they constantly coming on? So, if that makes sense. So again, I appreciate it, but I do think that we should look at those type of, needs specific. How many do we need? How much do we need? And I'm sure they will always be beneficial. I know sometimes we think, well, we add staff, and then eventually we don't need them. But the support is the support, and if it works, we embed it into the practices and to our programs and, whatever it is that we need for those supports in schools. But otherwise, thank you, but please let us know if there is a different number or a different way we can look at that, because I certainly won't want to keep adding just to, fulfill the name of TSSP. I hope it one day go away.
Exactly. Well, and I do recall Ashley and I speaking that this idea, again, of learning with, from, and scaling. So we didn't want to get too big yet because we wanted to make sure this is indeed going to make a difference for the schools, and then we can look at, is it enough, and do we need to scale? Keep in mind also that our goal is that the program specialists are working side by side with the teacher, so that we can pull them away and the teacher still has the efficacy to continue the work so that it doesn't become this vicious cycle.
One last question. What's the difference between the OGSs and their work and the program specialists? Is there a big difference?
Yes, because the OGSs are still classroom teachers.
Okay.
And so they are doing, monitoring of students and work outside of the school day. The program specialists don't have a classroom, so they can go in and model a lesson or observe a lesson of, not observe a lesson, watch a lesson of a teacher and give coaching because they're not responsible for another classroom.
So that is, definitely we have to look at that. I mean, because that's an additional burden, if you will, as a teacher trying to do that as well. So,
The OGSs?
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, thank you.
And
Thank
Dr.
you.
Menares, could you clarify on item 7 of the TSSP plan? We would always hypothetically have TSSP schools. Is that correct? Can you
Yes.
clarify that with
Yes,
the board?
Dr. Marston, thank you. Yes, we will always have TSSP schools because as our district moves and it is continuing to move, we'll still always have schools that are the lowest within the district, right? So we'll always have them, but the need won't always be as great, right? So we anticipate, we're always going to have schools that are not doing as well as the others, but they still may be, and they will be at outperforming other districts, right? So we'll still hone in on those because we'll have this blueprint to say, okay, so you're really, really strong in 3 out of these 4 areas. There's actually 6 elements. Let's tighten it up here, and then those schools will move, but then someone else will come in. So we're just always going to have this, but from a different perspective, right?
And I guess I'll agree to disagree with the concept. And when I think about TSSP schools, I think about the students that are there that are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So for me is one day, and I guess I can be the optimistic board member that I hope that we can fix it for kids. Because when I start thinking about always having something, then I start thinking about the numbers, and the numbers starts to tell me that year after year after year, I see the same students struggling.
Right.
So if our focus is going to be to fix it, I have to hope within my mind that we won't have TSSP schools, that we will have schools that need a little tweaking.
Mm-hmm.
But when we are identified TSSP schools that we've named are just off the charts, and I mean, it's a burden to think about the students that are there, what has happened, or the supports, and it's not a blame game, but whatever was needed at those schools, when we identified it, they didn't have it. And so we obviously see that people get off the list when they get what they need. And so I don't want to think about always having them, so I'll just agree to disagree.
That's good. I gotcha.
All right, Mr. Gallo?
Yes, thank you. I'm specifically encouraged by the collaboration that I heard, Barbara shared and our Indian Springs teacher, and, that it seemed to be, all the way up and down the chain. And I think having that not only collaboration, but our own internal capacity to be able to, intervene and provide these critical intervention supports and site supports at the schools that would require it is really, I think, moving our district ahead, and us being able to solve our own problems. Not only identification but solving our own problem. Hey, one of the questions that I had is part of the strategy to actually incorporate some applied learning experiences and career pathways at the TSSP schools, and maybe integrating that kind of a platform in student engagement and in a way to reach and maybe even an instructional practice of solidifying, the academic principles and practices in real life experiences.
Yes, so in the blueprint, there is a section, I'm looking to make sure that I call it exactly. We have a committee. So we took the TSSP problem-solving team, and then they broke into their desired areas. And so there's one called Common Core Standards Mapping and Deconstruction for Student Learning. And there's another one around student support systems. And so they're researching, and we're going to work with them. And they would be the ones to really build out what this looks like and sounds like around applied learning, around pathways, and then around apprenticeships. So we're going to work with them to build this out. That, and then in addition with educational service, because we want to make sure we're all on the same line.
And I'm specifically thinking about for some of the acceleration courses that we may be, integrating here. The studies that I've read has showcased that if you can create an applied learning experience, the retention level is there. They understand the principle and practice of the academic instruction. And it just seems to be a way to it's a reinforcing tool, for mastery of that academic principle.
To make learning relevant.
That's just
Right.
what the studies have said.
Yes,
I mean, it's
yes.
you guys that have come up with this. And then, and part of that formative assessment stuff, I think the real issue is where we always seem to be chasing the student. It's a kind of a post-performance evaluation where we never really seem to understand where they're coming in and then create these immediate interventions at the beginning of the year, not just post-assessment in a CASP test or something like that. And I think we've talked about it in terms of a growth model, understanding, our teachers actually moving their classroom, from where a student actually comes in, and assessing performance and assessing student performance based on a growth model, which I think is more appropriate as versus a end-of-year test to see if they're proficient at grade level. I think it's really important to see how a student is progressing, and hopefully it's 1+ year of growth, especially in the TSSP stuff. So that's my whole point on the formative assessment stuff, is you really got to know how a student's coming in, create the intervention strategies that you implement immediately through some accelerated courses and maybe specific program specialists, et cetera, and then assess as they, depart.
Absolutely.
So this makes sense? Yeah.
Yes, and and in addition to the formative assessment, which you're talking about much more the universal screening, where are they at the beginning? How do we move them? The ongoing formative assessment that the classroom teacher does every time they're teaching, right? So throughout the lesson, the checking for understanding and the responding to how
That's great.
students are learning.
Well, and documenting that, having some progress
Absolutely.
identification, and then really an intervention when they're not performing. So,
Immediately.
right.
Correct.
Well, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gallo. Mr. Tillman, did you have any questions?
So, is it safe to say that if you look at page 3, where you have the list of schools, past and present,
Yes.
because the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 schools are no longer in the circle, does that mean that their improved performance is what got them out of that group?
Yes. You're talking just specifically on page 3, right?
Page 3.
Correct.
Right. And
Or, Mr. Tillman, that the other schools had a greater need. So they had a greater need, and thus the other ones moved up and they moved in.
Gotcha. Okay. But for the most part, do you know? Is it?
So I can speak to many of these schools, and they have improved.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And then on the page that you have where the money's at, just so I'm clear on from a practical perspective, just a little explanation about what these terms mean. Like it says human resources, principal coaching, and SAMS program. What is the SAMS program?
So the SAMS program is a way for principals to track their time talking and monitoring instruction. And so it specifically has them looking at how they use their calendar in the and what they're spending their time on, so that they're spending less time around operational and training other people to take care of custodial issues
So
or
it's an automated system.
No, you actually have someone who is tracking your time. So you have your SAMS tracker. You may remember that we've had administrators throughout the district where someone was walking with them. They wouldn't talk to you, but they were your SAMS person, and they watched to see how you use your time, and then they train someone at the school to do that.
Okay. And then the assessment and accountability, it says assessment systems, $1.55 million. What is that?
So that is our benchmark assessments that we use as a district. I believe that's its learning platform that we hold everything on. And is there anything else, Dr. Mitchell, that's in the assessment
I guess my
systems?
question is, you said you use across the district, but why is this specific to the TSSP budget?
So this is, so remember on page, the one right before, that there's The plan has 7 parts to it. 1 through 6 is the systems work that we need to do for all of the schools, and so that's part of that. That fits in there. That actually is number 1.
Okay. And then the curriculum instruction and accountability, summer programs. So is this to suggest that all these schools are going to have a summer school? Or
This
what?
was from last summer, the catapult contract. So that this is reflecting last year's, well, it's in this year's fiscal, but it was the July budget. So we allocated that much because we've already done that summer program.
And-
This year, the summer program will be done within our.
And I guess that's a
internally.
good question because I may be confused about this. So it's not safe to say that the things that are listed for 2018, 2019 are the things that were used to get the results for 2017, 2018?
The human resources piece and the assessment, yes. The summer program, it would have been already passed. So that piece, no.
Okay. And then the continuous improvement TSSP program specialist. So that's the proposal to hire the new program specialist.
Correct. So that's the new division.
And then the student incentive system, what is that? What is that?
So that's the one where we were talking about where the students will do goal setting. They will have incentives to meet those goals, to increase student ownership. We have models of that at Rodriguez, Riley, and Vermont right now in our district.
And an example of an incentive is what?
Mr. Ramirez, can you speak to that? He led this work at his schools. I mean, I can, but I think you would do a better job describing it.
So typical incentives would be like end of the year college trip. It could be paraphernalia from the school, a school T-shirt, school pencils with school logos, front of the line passes,
Okay.
getting to go to a school dance for free.
Right.
All of those kinds of things would be incentives.
And I really think those type of things work. I mean, so I think it's a good idea. 21st century learning environment. We talked about technology. Is that what?
Technology, furniture, connectivity.
And then the extended learning time.
So that's the fancy way of saying either tutoring or summer school or intercession.
And the schools that had the improvement, did they have the extended learning time?
They had a variety of different things going on, yes.
And then the professional learning implementation?
So these were funds that we allocated per school, so each school got a little pocket to implement any way that they needed to around professional development. So a lot of them did extended learning or extended time for teachers, extra pay, or subs so that the teachers had time for collaboration. So this was kind of their little pocket to play with any way they needed to. Some purchased materials. It was the school specific.
And I think Ms. Rogers brought up a good point in terms of schools that we classified in the TSSP, I guess you want to call it program. For me, it's always been, you said there's 4 criteria. What are they again, the 4 things?
So language arts and math on CASP, chronic absenteeism and suspension rates.
Right. So for me, you're always going to have schools, when you compare the 70 schools, that when you look at the numbers, there are going to be a certain number of schools that are going to perform not as good as the other ones. And so to me, it just gives the opportunity to focus on what it is at the school. Because as a parent, when I find out my kids at a school that's not performing as high as those other schools, my first question is, well, why do I want my kid to stay there? And if my kid is going to stay there, then is the district going to do something to make sure that you give an extra effort to increase the performance at that school? Meaning that you're going to make sure my child's getting the best education possible. And I think this is a way to say, hey, we are going to spend an extra $6 million looking at those sites because we agree it's not acceptable that we have schools that aren't performing as well as the other schools. And if there's something we can do about it, we're going to do that. And I think that's always going to be the case because it's always going to be the case that when the results come out, people are going to look at those results. And there's going to be schools going to be that don't perform as high as others. There's no way getting around it. And we have to address that. This came about years ago. The state had a program, and we were going about our way doing work. And one day, it was headlines. San Bernardino had X amount of schools that were the lowest performing 5% schools in the state of California. And at that time, the state put together a program called School Improvement, and they demanded what you had to do immediately to address the needs of the schools. But the reality of it is, you're always going to have schools performing in the lowest 5% throughout the state. But it does make sense that you make sure you're doing something to mitigate whatever's going on at those sites. And I really think what we learned in that program was sometimes it's the administration, sometimes there's a change at the site, and if you don't focus on it, it could get worse. So I think this is just our insurance plan to say, when we identify schools that have special needs, we're going to go in there and do whatever we can to make sure we correct the issues at those sites.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and I appreciate the report. Great report.
You're welcome.
All
We're
right,
not
and
done yet.
we do have a clarifying question, but I do want to make sure that the board, and we do have two schools to present, and so I know
Yes.
Dr. Flores had a clarifying question.
Right, I just wanted to follow up with Mr. Tillman related to the budget. How do you determine how to divvy up this money? And based on what criteria for the teachers? Because elementary schools are different than middle schools, and definitely high schools. The high schools that we have here, especially Arroyo, are huge.
So which, yes.
So I'm asking a clarifying question of
generalize.
how do you determine, what are the priorities at these schools, and how do they get the funding? I mean, you have the categories here, like Mr. Tillman said, but it's just, it's broad.
Right.
And so how do you determine how that money is allocated? And of course, you can't do everything. So how are the priorities determined?
Right. So specifically, are you speaking to the school system supports and then the school allocations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the school system supports those areas, with the exception of the 21st century learning environments, but student incentive system and extended learning time, that was specifically identified in Section 7 of the TSSP plan. And then what we did is we took the funds and we said, elementary will get less, then middle, then high. But then even within elementary, we have elementaries that are much larger, for example, Lincoln,
Right,
that would get some
More.
more than Cole, for example. So we've divided that, and then we shared it with our principals to say, does this look fair to you? Does this look reasonable? Can you develop a program out of that? And so we got input from them, and then we're moving in that direction on that. Same thing for extended learning. We said, how many students? What would be appropriate? Mr. Ramirez actually talked with the high school principals. When you put your summer program together, what did it cost you? And so then we planned it from there. So we were very purposeful about making sure they had enough. And then on the school allocations, it was a per pupil allocation. So again, based on what the school need, how many students are at that school, and then the school decides on how they're going to use those funds. So we try to be thoughtful about it, knowing that the goal is all schools at the end will have an incentive system that they can maintain and continue when they're not TSSP anymore, because we believe that it makes a difference for students, that the learning environments when they're not TSSP anymore will reflect the kind of learning environment that our students deserve, and that they have determined what's the best extended learning time, and so that they can use their categorical funds if they
And I'm
choose.
assuming that this is an additional money instead beyond their site-based plan
Yes.
that they submitted.
Yes,
Is that
above and
correct?
beyond.
Okay, all right.
Above and beyond.
Then one clarifying question, another one real quickly. Are you sure that King was last year in 2016? I don't remember.
Them
that
being
King-
TSSP?
Yeah, I don't
Yes.
remember that they were.
They have been. So I've been supervising King. This is my third year. The first year they were not. They were initially on it. Then when I came in, they were removed. But then they
Okay,
went on
so they
last
weren't
year.
on 2016 originally.
The very first time, yes, but then they came off. So my first year in, they weren't on. So like spring 2016, yes, but then when school year started, no.
Okay.
But then the following year, yes.
2017. So it's
2017.
really 2017. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're
All right,
welcome.
thank you. So now we can have our schools
Yes,
present.
so we're ready
Thank
for
you
Hunt.
your
So
patience.
I will introduce Hunt. As shared, we have much skill and talent at our schools, and again, our goal is to build the knowledge and really identify the strengths of our schools. And so we're going to have Ms. Colling speak to what's been going on. But let me just quickly. Oh, we need the. Thank you. show you her data. So in language arts, you can see, so this is a gap analysis. So you can see that in one school year's time that they have quickly closed, or they're moving on closing the gap of how their school is doing in language arts school-wide compared to the district. The next slide really then shows us that Hunt is a great school to find out what exactly have they been doing for the EL and RFEP students. So they have, that's the orange. You can see that they have exceeded how the district has been doing for our EL and RFEP. So the district-wide is that kind of magenta color. So I want Ms. Colling to talk about what's been going on at her school. And board, I want you to listen because I think you'll hear some similarities to what you heard from Luis last time around what's happening at Holcomb. So Ms. Colling.
Good evening. I'm here to share some highlights of what Hunt Elementary, a TSSP school, did in the TSSP program last year. First, we worked on developing a vision and an instructional plan with a focus on language arts. As a school site in 2016, we set up a 3-year instructional plan. In year 1 and 2, we reviewed our procedures for the daily teaching of English language arts standards. I used our assigned program specialists from elementary instruction to complete English language arts lesson studies with each grade level, focusing on language arts with reciprocal teaching. Our program specialists from elementary instruction worked with each grade level of teachers on assigned days. In the morning, one PLC grade level team would work on the English language arts state standards through lesson studies, and those teachers observed each other teaching a team-created lesson in each other's classrooms in the afternoon based off of these standards and lesson studies foci. Lesson studies are a form of classroom inquiry in which several teachers collaboratively plan, teach, observe, revise one lesson, and share the results after watching each other teach. In this one lesson focused on for the day in teacher training, teachers meet in grade level, they develop learning goals through state standards, they design a lesson, they plan the study for evidence of student learning, teach and observe in each other's classrooms, and then at the end they analyze and review the lesson. Teachers start with clarifying the success criteria or endpoint in the learning process and design the instruction to lead to the goal. This language arts coverage helped us continue to move our program in the right direction. We focused in on our English learners and African American students. Hunt Elementary had the highest count of African American student subgroup last year in the elementary schools. African American and English learner supports. To support our African American and English learners, we focused on 2 main things. First, we implemented the use of the CASP interim assessments weekly, beginning in mid-November, to prepare students for the summative test in the spring. As a leadership team, we mapped out a schedule, then got input from our teachers and implemented it. Each week, there was a focus on a standard, domain, claim, target, and that was aligned to the scope and sequence being taught in our classrooms. Teachers received information from using these interims daily in order to inform them on early intervention for student learning needs. Teachers use the interim assessments on a daily basis in a non-standardized format, meaning that the teachers walk students through the questions for critical thinking to make sure the students really understood what was being asked and different strategies that could be used to answer the questions. The second thing we focused on was reciprocal teaching strategies, which is an instructional strategy that takes form of a dialogue between student collaborative groups promoting reading comprehension. 4 specific reading strategies used are questioning, clarifying, summarizing, and predicting. Teachers used language frames with our English learners and our African American student subgroup to support and scaffold when the students focused in on listening and speaking activities. We have established and implemented a multi-tiered system of supports to meet students' academic and social-emotional needs. We have a strong MTSS system at Hunt Elementary. Academically, in grades 1 through 5, every student receives at least 1 hour of targeted remediation or acceleration daily according to monthly school-wide assessments. Groups are fluid and change monthly. Each teacher places a student in the appropriate reading group and then teaches targeted leveled instruction skills. All of our kindergarten classes just transitioned last month at Hunt to a full day schedule to better meet our students' needs. We have one of the highest mobility student movements in the district. We have a dedicated program facilitator monitoring student data daily. This program facilitator monitors all incoming students, which can be up to 6 to 7 students a day, entering our school, and completes data summaries within 2 days of a new student's arrival on our campus. Our campus has 3 opportunity gap specialists, my teachers, which are teachers working past their workday, paid for and trained by the Equity and Targeted Student Achievement Division under Dr. Brown. I assigned each one of these gap specialists 2 grade levels apiece, where they track and monitor African American student progress. They meet with the students as a liaison in the school day for support, both academically and behaviorally. This year, we have added an LPAC English Learner Boot Camp, focusing in on moving our English learners even more to the next level. Behavior. Through a student services point of contact from the district, I set up a Hunt Collaborative. This team consists of any agency working with my school, and we meet monthly to review our Tier 3 students and their services. Young Visionaries, PRAC, Petals, Elementary Instruction, and Victor Community are just a few of the departments and agencies that show up every month to these meetings. In this meeting, we discuss our most at-risk students, ensuring every agency is given support to the fullest of their abilities. School visits. We teamed up with Bradley administration, shared data, and worked on PD planning. Within our school, our teachers visit each other's classrooms continually to observe best practices through lesson studies and instructional rounds. Our team has visited Emmerton Elementary last year to see AVID and QAR strategies being used. We used categorical monies to bring in experts to observe our classrooms and give coaching next steps. We are excited about the support coming to our school sites coming from our new continuous improvement office. We will be receiving program specialists assigned to our TSSP school sites 2 days a week to help coach and coordinate instructional components of our schools, both in language arts and math. We also are going to receive and have now monies that is supporting extended learning, technology, furniture, and incentives.
Okay, great, thank you.
Can I ask, can I ask her a question? Great presentation.
you.
In terms of, like you mentioned, the extending the kindergarten, is that because of the extra money that you received?
It's free.
Oh, it's free.
Right. Our staff decided as a team that our kindergarten students, we wanted them there full day.
Wow.
And we have 5 kindergartens, so now we have 5 full day kindergartens.
Wow.
Instructional leadership.
Great. Thank you.
All right, and Dr. Flores had a question.
I want to commend you, Ms. Colleen.
Thank you.
For your leadership and for the deep caring that you have for our kids and teachers.
Thank you.
It's very evident. And I love that you teach, you guys decided to teach reciprocal teaching, because that's what our kids need. They need to comprehend,
Right.
period. And I know that before you used leveled books as well with the primary. Are you still doing that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. And for the board, the leveled readers, teachers know where the kids are, because at the end of first grade, when the kids hit 16, I don't know what letter that is, that shows that they've progressed. At level 28, that's the end of second grade. And at the end of third grade, 38 to 40, if they hit 38 to 40 level, they are proficient readers. And so I commend you for that. When you were at Lincoln, you did that. And I think I hope that that's in the early literacy plan, because that is really significant. And, and I know you have very dedicated teachers, because I taught some of them. And so I really, really commend you for all the work that you've done. It's tremendous growth.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you're getting extra money, because I'm sure you could even use more, correct?
We can use any money we have.
Yeah, yes, yes. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Dr. Hill, did you have any comments for the school? Okay. Are you done?
Just
or no?
one more slide.
Okay, go ahead.
And so as the slide's coming up, I also want to echo what Dr. Flores was saying. I was visiting Hunt. That is a group of hardworking teachers. They are working extremely hard, and there is a lot going on at that school, and they're doing great work. As at all of our TSSP schools, we're actually seeing a lot of reciprocal teaching going on now. So it's exciting. So this slide just does a final review of what we went over, just to give the board an overview of timelines on things, right? So and we're looking specifically at the school level and district level support. So on the school level support, this idea of lesson design and delivery direct support, that's through our program specialists. So we'll start that this year, continue through next year. The 21st century learning environments, we're inventorying this school year to make sure we're starting to purchase for whomever needs it, but our goal is at the end of next year to have those schools up and running. The student incentive program, they're planning and piloting it this year, and then it'll be implemented next school year full scale. Coordination for the extended learning time, that will happen both this year and next school year. On the district level supports, already shared, we're started meeting with the site leadership and looking at researching the best practices on change management. Just started that, will continue through next year. Partnering with the parent advisory committee, so we're planning and we're going to pilot this year for an implementation next year. And this SBCUSD TSSP blueprint for school improvement, which the district will own. We're drafting it this year. We'll be implementing and refining next year. So just an overview of everything that was just shared with you. And then the last slide is just a thank you. I want to thank in educational services, assessment, educational technology, and Dr. Mitchell's team for their support. I want to thank our TSSP principals who are sitting behind me, thoughtful for being here and supporting each other. And I want to thank the teachers at those schools, SBTA, and then finally Mr. Ramirez. He is the backbone of moving this work forward. So I want to thank him for his leadership and open up to any other questions you may have.
Okay, and then we're going to have Dr. Hill.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Menards, thank you so much. You and your team, you did a great job. I need to apologize. I got so cold I had to leave, but I'm feeling better now.
Okay, good.
The presentation was absolutely wonderful. And the thing that I really liked that came through from all of you, you recognize when there's a problem, and you recognize when you need to get off one freeway and get on the other. And that's what I heard from you. And I know at Hunt, I know you just had the Honda helpers over there. So when you have that involvement, and I know with East Valley Water, they're also one of your partners. Having those partnerships is so good, and I just appreciate the work you're doing, and I'm very comfortable that you're moving in the right direction. But the other thing that I'm glad, you don't have to go to Kansas or Florida or any place to get your good resources. They're right here in your own backyard. I'm just glad you found them and you're using them, so continue doing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Hill.
Okay, great. Ms. Rogers?
Just want to say definitely to Hunt, to all of you, great presentation, but the depth of the details that you went into just brings it to life and makes it make sense as to, we know you're doing a lot of work a lot of times, but just showing us and giving us an idea of all of those partnerships and all of those efforts coming together, and even amazing us. I think the reason why we were kind of mumbling a little bit is because when you said, well, we decided that our kids are going to, those types of things are wonderful. Here you have these kindergartners that, what better place can they be all day is learning and getting a good start, a head start with people that care and want to see them excel. And so we know that as they move forward, they already have, the school on their side to say, you guys can do it, and press forward, and you have people that believe that they can do it. Mm-hmm. And so I really appreciate the presentation and all of the information tonight.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gallo? No? Mr. Tillman?
Just great presentation, and thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I guess the one question I did have, the reason why Hunt is still in TSSP,
So good question. So I'm kind of holding all the schools hostage for 2 years. And because we want to build that,
I like that.
blueprint, and then we
Sure.
want to sustain, right? So we don't want them to, like,
Makes sense.
Cole's in there right now. We want to learn from Cole, and
Exactly.
we want to make sure they're moving too. So they're with me for this year and next year.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I also wanted to thank you for the presentation. I know we're doing some good things, and these are some great ideas, and we're collaborating with the teachers union, especially in finding out how we can work and partner and collaborate with our teachers. Dr. Marsden, you had a couple of comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to compliment the team. We got a lot of team members here. Want to call them out. I know Charles Brown's out here from Ed Services, our Ed Services team, and Barbara Richardson's here as well. Is that correct? Is she out there? I can't see it right there. She is. Okay. And any others from Ed Services? Because it has been a combined effort between continuous improvement, Ed Services personnel. And we have our principal leaders here. Can you all please stand so the board can see who you are and wave? These ladies and gentlemen are the ones that are causing the instructional leadership changes that are necessary. And I want to just, Ms. Calling, compliment you and Ms. Culberson for your presenting, Ms. Pastuchek, Aldo, Dr. Moneras. But Ms. Calling, I want to just thank you. What I'm hearing from you as you were speaking is very sophisticated areas of focus for teaching and learning. Your instructional leadership is to be commended. So I want to thank you for your persistence and your leadership. That's really what we're after, and that is what I think is gained by not having a blame and punish model. By having a build capacity focus, we don't get lost on emotion. We get fixated on how do we get better. And that's what I heard in your language. You're getting fixated on what you're doing. And we want to just continue to encourage all others to take full advantage of these resources. So thank you, Dr. Moneras and Mr. Ramirez, for your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, let's give a round of applause. All right, so now we're going to go to 10.0, board discussion. This was brought to our attention that Dr. Flores wanted to talk about the district mariachi band, and so this is an opportunity to do so. Dr. Marsden, you were going to...
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Medina. And with that, I'd like Dr. Mitchell to brief the board. He has some, I believe, a handout for you on this topic specifically related to, he's already given it out to you as a board. Okay, very good. I think he's looking for his copy, though. So I'm going to have him walk you through that briefly and then open it up for further discussion as a board. So with that, Dr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Dr. Marsden. So at the request of Dr. Flores, we're happy to have met with our partners in the community last week. We met, so on July 10th, Barbara Flores inquired as to the status of San Bernardino City Unified District Mariachi Program. We want to update you now. So Ed Services reached out to Karina Sanchez, the daughter of Maria Sanchez, director of Academia Talento Juvenile, for information on the district's mariachi program. So on the 5th, we received a contract proposal from Ms. Sanchez. We negotiated a term of 18 months, starting in January to June 2020. Under the leadership of Maria Sanchez, we're looking at a contract to involve district students only. That contract in total is $34,950. We're happy we have the funds to support that contract. The details of the contract is $12,500 on uniforms, $11,250 on staff expenses. Instruments will support those as well with $6,200, and transportation. This would be to and from competitions, but not to practices. We have a proposal, and the proposal talks about one weeknight per week, 4:45 to 7 in terms of a practice. We have a critical mass of current interested students at North Vermont, so we're proposing to host the practices at North Vermont to begin with. The district will distribute flyers to all of our school sites to recruit kids in the program. And the ensemble, well, we put into the contract to provide at least 5 performances through the 18-month period, with one being held for the Board of Education. So happy to answer any questions if you have any.
All right, and we're going to start with Mr. Tillman, and then we're going to move along this way. Thank you.
I think it's great that we have a mariachi band program. I just hope that we learn from the district-wide drumline experience.
Yes.
And make sure, and make sure we do it in a way where we know that this is part of the district, and it can't be dependent on one person. So we got to plan for whenever it's going to be here forever, and which means that somehow you need to make sure that it fits in with all the district policies and rules and the type of position. We should be working towards making this position or a position in the district that's going to run a mariachi program. I'm all for doing this thing with the person that exists right now, but in order to make sure we have longevity and not problems in a couple of years, you want to make sure that it becomes part of the district, whatever that means. Even if we do it, we can start with this one, and you said this at North Vermont, maybe start another one someplace else with a regular employee that's hired the regular way, and not a contract thing, but a regular, make it part of the district. Because I'm telling you, if we don't, we're going to end up with the same thing we have with the drumline.
And so, Tillman, we thank you for that. We know you're well aware of those problems we had. So, in terms of jump-starting the program, we think this is a good pilot program. We would then transition to the same model that we're using for the drumline.
The one we have now.
Yes, where we're having a program specialist that we've hired. We also have something unique that we didn't have, which is a full-time K-12 VAPA coordinator that the district, the board approved as part of the VAPA strategic plan. So we thank you for that. So we didn't have that oversight well into the drumline. When we did that, that helped solidify the program. We then hired a program specialist after that. So we think getting us jump-started with an existing mariachi instruction that we then can then transition to a full-time position.
And the VAPA person is involved right now?
Absolutely. Scott Nelson is running and managing this contract for us.
Okay. Mr. Gallo?
Yes, how many students are we?
The contract, we didn't specify a number of students, and so we'll recruit and see what we get, and then if we need to expand, we'll do so. And so we're going to do everything we can to support.
What's kind of the
right now? Right now, in their current community-wide program, there's probably 30 to 50 kids.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Rogers?
You mentioned, we said Chavez because that was what the request was, or because I'm not.
You said North Vermont.
Or North Vermont. So, and the drum line, is the drum line, if we're going to run it similar, is that all the kids throughout the district has an opportunity, or how do you make that determination?
So the district drum line is open to all students in the district.
Right.
They practice at Chavez.
Okay, so then, so for the mariachi band,
yes,
how would kids, because I'm just anticipating, I go to, I don't know, Curtis, and I want to be a part of it. Is it going to be?
Kids will have to get themselves on their own to the practices.
Okay.
And that's what we do. And that's what we do with drumline. And
okay, so as long as it's simple, because I know there was a lot of things. I came in late on it, but I did hear from buses to this problem to that problem. So hopefully, we are ironing out those in advance, and it's open for whoever wants to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it's a pilot. How long will it be a pilot?
Well, this contract is 18 months.
So 18 months,
Yes.
and then during that time, that's when it's going to transition into what the same format that we have.
Yes, because Mr. Tillman makes a great point around our programs are more successful when we have ownership.
Exactly.
That's internal to the district, so we agree wholeheartedly with you. We think that this contract will help us to jumpstart the program.
And then you'll move.
And then we'll transition it on. And plus, we also have Mr. Nelson, our coordinator over VAPA, to help oversee these operations, to make sure that even though it's a contract, our person inside who will be held accountable is Scott Nelson.
So the structure will be the same. It won't
Absolutely.
be anything different.
Absolutely.
Okay, those are my questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. Dr. Hill?
Thank you. With the establishment of this group, which I think is a good thing to do, will it be open to all students? Because I've seen mariachi bands with elementary, middle, and high school students.
Yes.
So it'll be.
So we will recruit for the contractor at all of our schools and make this opportunity open for all kids, and then we'll see what we get, and we'll make adjustments as needed.
Okay, so if you become top heavy at high school,
Right.
you would
Then
just try to balance it out?
Yeah, so what we
hopefully?
did with the drum line, for example, we have a high school, middle school. We have different levels within the drum line. So
Oh, okay.
we anticipate having to do the same kind of analysis and adjustments as needed when we see what we get with the mariachi.
Now, I know you mentioned 30 to 50. Are funds available in case you have 300 people who want to participate that you can?
So the funds are finite, but we're gonna do everything we can to accommodate kids who want to be in the mariachi.
Okay, because we don't want 50 in mariachi and 150 down here.
Yeah,
talking
we're not
to
gonna
us.
turn anyone
Okay.
away.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Dr. Flores?
Well, I want to thank you for presenting this and carrying it forth, so you don't hear me complain forever. But I am very happy that we're starting it.
Thank you.
And I concur with Mr. Tillman that we have to integrate it as a school-wide, a district-wide program. And, we have such talented musicians and such talented music teachers in our district. And I know our board is very committed to, our music.
Yep.
And so I'm just really thrilled that we're jump-starting in it. And I concur with Dr. Hill. There might be more kids that want to participate in it as we get started. So.
And we'll make the adjustments
Yeah,
as needed.
okay.
Absolutely.
So
You have
thank
my
you so
commitment.
much. I think our kids and our community will be really, really happy. So thank you.
Well, thanks for the push, Dr. Flores.
All right, and for my question is just to make sure that all of our students know throughout the whole district.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's just making sure that the information gets to all students, and that way if they want to participate, bands and so forth.
We'll push it through all of our principals as well as all of our VAPA teachers, as well as through the family engagement centers.
Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, great, thank you for the presentation on that, and that was very helpful, and I think that's something that we definitely need, and I know Dr. Flores has been asking for this presentation for a while, and so I'm glad we were able to do it. Although it's late, but still, we were able to do it. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go to 11 point, let me make sure I'm on the right part. Yep, 11.0, reports and comments. 11.1, report by San Bernardino Teachers Association. I see none. 11.2, report by California School Employees Association.
No report.
Okay, no report. 11.3, report by Communication Workers of America.
No report.
11.4, report by San Bernardino School Police Officers Association.
No report.
No. Now 11.5, comments by board members, and we'll go ahead and start with Dr. Flores.
I wasn't ready for that.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. Oh, maybe Dr. Wyatt.
Dr.
Yeah.
Wyatt, since he's walking in.
Yeah.
Board comments, Dr. Wyatt.
Well, excuse me for my absence from the dais for a little bit there. I wasn't feeling too well, so.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I missed a conversation on the mariachi
Yes, you
band. I saw the
did.
memo on it, and thank you for the memo. I think that was is that from Dr. Mitchell?
Mhm.
So we appreciate that, and I'm sure Dr. Flores was very pleased about that as well. So it sounds like we're moving forward, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. As for board comments, not a whole heck of a lot. I was real fortunate to get to go to the Black Honor Roll this past week, which was right here in Indian Springs, and that was quite an event. Boy, a lot of schools and a couple hundred students all the way from elementary up to high school, and so a wonderful celebration by our folks and our parents and our kids. And then just wanted to say hello to our friend and colleague, Mr. Hardy Brown, our county schools school board member. I had spoke with him on the phone. He was a little bit ill right now, and he's home, and he just says to tell everybody hello and that he's feeling okay and doing well. So we hope he receives great news later on today and tomorrow. So that's it for me. And as the rest of our colleagues out there that are running for office right now, we know it's quite an endeavor and very difficult on our families and takes up a tremendous amount of time. And win or lose, we know you're all champions in our heart, and we thank you for putting yourselves out there and doing what you do for our community. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Flores?
At our CLSBA conference, Dr. Ron Wilkins presented Black and Brown Unity. And he has a book, and I brought one for all of you if you want one. I didn't bring one for all the assistant soups. I'm sorry. I just brought one for Dr. Mitchell.
We can make copies.
You can make copies. You can-
Sure.
You want to pass it? No, you got one. Oh, you don't want to touch it? Oh, okay. All right. So here you go. And his presentation was overflowing. And I would highly recommend Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Marsden that we contact him. He has incredible insights about our history and how we're connected. And I know that Mr. Tillman, you've read a lot about our Black and Brown history, and he brings it to light in a really, really fascinating way. And I would just, I have his contact information, so I can give you his cell number and so forth. He's a retired professor from Dominguez Hills, so and he's a delight. He's a character, actually, but he's really very, very knowledgeable. So I would like to recommend that we ask him to come and do some work with us. Also, I only have one other, and several questions, and this will be for you, Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Marsden. And I would like an update on Footsteps to Brilliance, to where we're at. I know that we put that, Ms. Berdier put the button on there, but I would like to know, who did we assign to personally follow up with directing Footsteps, number one. Number two, I know that I've shared it with teachers, Footsteps to Brilliance digital platform, Dr. Mitchell, and they don't know how to upload it. So are we providing that service for them, especially the dual immersion teachers want that because it's bilingual. So I'd like to know that. Parents are also asking about, are we providing that? I know that he went to Acoma and presented to the parents there. I wasn't able to go. And Dr. Pettis, I don't know if you've connected to see if at the family engagement centers, if he shared that with parents or not. I think that would be really important to follow up. I also would like update on well, I think I said this right. Who is in charge of Footsteps to Brilliance? Are you, Dr. Mitchell? Your staff is, but who personally is in charge?
That would be Tasha Dwyzen, Director of Elementary Instruction.
She's in charge, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So if anybody wants to know about it, I just direct them to her?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right. And she will know what's going on?
Absolutely. We just gave you a BC probably about a board meeting or two ago, but be happy to give you any other information.
Right, I would like to know where we're at. Have we disseminated to teachers and so forth? I would like to know what the progress is.
Absolutely, be happy to do. In fact, we sent out an email today
Right.
advertising
Right.
a training for Footsteps.
The third thing, and I'll present it in December, is the State Department and the State Board of Education went ahead and approved the English Learner Roadmap. I don't know if you're aware of that.
We are.
Okay. And I know that Mrs. Applegate is really aware of it in the EL department. And I really want to take the opportunity to commend her because, I mean, Dr. Marsden, the cabinet report that you presented to us at our board workshop was tremendous. The growth that our EL kids have made is tremendous growth under her leadership and under, the EL department. And, I think with the EL roadmap, she's going to need more funding to even grow even more because we have to target our, as you saw in the, not just the English, not just English language arts,
Time.
but mathematics, we have to go ahead and invest in, the teachers, the ALFs, and so forth. So I just wanted to commend her personally for all her efforts.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Dr. Hill?
Thank you, Madam President. Just have a few things to share. It was October 17th when we had the safety summit. Well attended, good information, probably one of the best. And I don't think we've had a meeting since then, but well attended at the Professional Development Center. Just appreciate our chair, Dr. Wyatt, making sure that we had it there. And, again, well attended and very good program. Also had a chance to go to the San Bernardino Symphony, and I was amazed. There must have been between 50 and 75 of our students in attendance on a Saturday evening, and it was very enjoyable, and I understand the students enjoyed themselves, and I just want to give a shout out to Akuma for making sure they got those students there. On the 29th, I, along with Ms. Rogers and a few of the school district females, did a mom mob at Holcomb Elementary School. I think we had between 15 and 20 people there, and just had a wonderful time greeting the young people. Had an opportunity last week to witness the acceptance of a $500,000 grant that was provided by the Department of Justice to Youth Action Partnership, and they're going to do some things with mentoring, and that will certainly involve our students. And well done. It's on the opioid issue. Then Monday last week, we went to the Joint County School Board Conference. Dr. Flores, Chief Polino, Dr. Marsden, Gwen Rogers, and myself went. And the keynote speaker was Dan Rather, and it was just an interesting and exciting time, and appreciate all that we learned there. But the one thing I want to spend about a minute talking about is the Courageous Leadership Summit that was last Saturday at San Bernardino High School. And just want to say, again, a shout out to Dr. Gutierrez for opening up her school. They had about 200 high school students there, and these are the workshops they had. Don't get stuck in traffic. That stopped human trafficking. Squad goes to college, and your college, your future. Kiki, do you love me? And that's dating with a purpose. But the struggle is real. Leaders struggle too. And no warrior princess training, and that's self-defense. The panel did an excellent job, and the students were just absolutely marvelous. And I just want to say, I hope this was their first annual, not their last, Courageous Leadership Summit. And again, thanks to Dr. Gutierrez and all the other staff members who put that on. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Hill. Ms. Rogers, if you can help.
Never. Okay, just a couple of shout outs. Actually, we, I think it was last Saturday, there was a lot of things going on at Cal State, but I had an opportunity to participate in the countywide parent summit. And shout out to Dr. Mitchell, who did a presentation for it's the countywide I'm talking about. The countywide parent summit was great. I know a lot of people were attending, and I had an opportunity to do a workshop, but I heard your workshop had more people than my workshop. So I'm gonna be working on it next year. I'm gonna try. I even did a panel and tried to, but shout out to you because I know a lot of the parents really, really enjoyed it, and they look forward to getting a chance to just to hear you. A lot of times they don't get a chance to dialogue with you because you're up here on the dais, but they really enjoy it, and I know a lot of the parents are reaching out and just letting me know just how much that's important to especially our African American parents. So thank you for that. And then the other one, I had picked up the Highland News and also saw, and I know in addition to the inspiration that Dr. Marsden did on our student at Sanji, and Sanji received a lot of accolades. In the Highland News, Dr. Marsden, I don't know if you have it, but I think it was the previous month that Principal Clark was also recognized at the CIF Champion for Character banquet. And in the article, they mentioned, about her support for her team and just always being there, and they always can rely on her, and just really appreciative. It was a nice article in the Highland News. So we're just really grateful for our staff and the things that they do in the community, and we appreciate you all.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rogers. Mr. Gallo?
Yes, thank you. It's been a month since I've been here. I missed you all. It was great. I don't know if you knew our seating arrangements in the past, but Margaret was to my left, and she would constantly kick me under the table. So I've had to have my second surgery on my left foot due to Margaret. I'm filing a workers' compensation
Margaret did
claim.
that?
Dr.
Oh my goodness, Margaret.
I mean,
I made a
look at
request
her
to
over
put
there.
him to sit on the right side next time.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. But it's good to be back. I'm strapped to these crutches, but hopefully that'll be done in a month or so. So thank you. I missed you all.
Yeah. I have a suggestion. Have her sit between both of you.
I don't think it'll do any good. It really won't.
Well, thank you for being back, and I'm glad you're doing well. Mr. Tillman? No comments. That's everyone except for myself. What do I have? I just think that we're there's a lot of things going on within the district, great, and then there's a few challenges with regarding, with social media and when everything else you read, and there's not necessarily all of it is accurate. And so I want to be mindful of those that are listening to us right now. Is just try to get down and read the fine print of where these articles are coming from and who's speaking on behalf of maybe other school districts. So I'm just being mindful with that. Okay. We're going to go ahead and go to 11.6, comments by superintendent and staff members.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I'll come back to that topic with the article you're referring to over the weekend in a moment. But I do want to echo Ms. Rogers' comments and compliments to our own principal, Ms. Dion Clark, is being celebrated as a CIF character champion. She is indeed that. And also just echoing what I said earlier in my comments for Sanji High School junior Desi Gonzalez. It sounds like his perseverance and athletic abilities are going to help him soar. I had the pleasure of attending with a few of you, board members as well, the Cal State Snapshot sponsored by the African American Alumni Association to recognize the academic achievements of African American students in the region. And Dr. Tomas Morales is to be applauded for his efforts to reach and connect with our African American students, because he knows we have a hidden treasure that we need to tap into that we're not doing a good job of tapping into generally. And so I just want to commend him. I had breakfast with he and Diana Rodriguez just yesterday morning, and we spent a great deal of time of talking about our strategy and approach to really work on capturing our students and helping them take advantage of this world-class institution in our backyard. Some of you have had your own children, yourselves have attended or worked for this wonderful institution, and we need to take advantage of it. I want to recognize our own staff, Tasha Doizen, and elementary teacher Patricia Brody. They have recently been appointed to the California Department of Education's literacy assessment team. That's a big deal for us, board, because now we have our leadership who's leading our district efforts around literacy asked to lead on the State Board of Ed, and that's a big compliment to their work. This is a prestigious board that's tasked with providing input on the state literacy needs assessment, analyzing assessment results, and helping to guide literacy instruction across California's public schools. So we're pleased to have 2 staff members representing San Bernardino City Unified to share our district successes with other colleagues in the state team and to learn additional success strategies used by other districts as well. Last week I attended in San Francisco the Willie Brown breakfast, and I was able to hear not only Willie Brown, but both of our gubernatorial candidates were featured. And so sometime tonight, I guess, or tomorrow morning, we'll find out who our state selects as its next governor. But I believe that our district is teed up to work quickly with the new administration, whoever's selected, to ensure the best success scenarios for our children. Also attended last week, the California Council on Economic Education hosted quite the gala at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, where they recognized our district with this beautiful award sitting in front of me. We're one of just a handful of districts who now offers a permanent, in California, who offers a permanent elective course for financial literacy to our students in high school. And so, Board, your leadership is to be commended. As you know, that's part of our strategic plan, if you will, our commitment to our students. Our children have asked for it, the student advisory as well. And then did want to touch on the article written over the weekend. The Sun newspaper published an op-ed by Senator John Moorlach, which attempted to explain the lack of financial soundness of some California public schools, specifically naming us. So I don't know, Board, if you have any questions, we're certainly stand ready to answer those. We're prepared to provide you with an update if necessary. And I'll just look to you if I don't see anybody nodding for any further explanation. We'll just let it die, but natural death.
I'll let it die, but the thing is that I just want to be mindful. I was in an election 2 years ago, and so unfortunately elected officials can and use op-eds in order to kind of hinder other persons that might be running against them, and so they use these little tactics, and we have to be mindful. That's what I'm saying. Always read at the bottom who is writing it and what's their intentions. Election season, so you will see some of these, and yeah, just to be mindful of where these are coming from. Even if our local newspaper are publishing it, I feel sometimes irresponsibly, because then they're not necessarily putting the full truth out there.
Thank you, Ms. Medina.
And I wanted just to comment. I got texts that about this is terrible. You know, what are you doing? And yet I had to say we got a positive, rating. Do you believe everything you read in the paper? Yes. No, you shouldn't. And just like Ms. Medina said, read the bottom, who wrote it, are the facts correct? I really think, and I thank you, Ms. Christakos, for the BC that we got explaining it. And so, they just turn the not facts, but data to suit their
agenda.
Their agenda. And public should know we are not in debt. We are not in debt. We have positive financial rating. We've had it ever since I've been on the board, and I think since Mr. Tillman has been on the board. We're very fiscally conservative, and we're mindful of the budget. And so I was really irritated by this person that wrote it. I even looked him up, and I go, oh my God, I'm not going to say anything about it, but go look him up. And but we have to be mindful, and not believe everything you read. I mean, it's just really, how would I say, like you said, Ms. Medina, they're just using it as propaganda and for their own gain.
Yeah, so I'll take that lead, and enough said.
And I just want to say, and it's good that we bring this up, because we're talking among ourselves, but we're really talking to our community, and that's why I felt it was important. And thank you, Janie, for the information, but they don't know. And so when we're here, we may know this information like the back of our hand, but it's important for us to be upfront with our community, so when they read things and then they hear it here, this is on record, and they know, the truth.
Right. And Mr. Tillman.
Yeah, and Ms. Rogers, I think that's a good point. And right now, the way the state assess the condition of school districts is through the county superintendent of schools. and they give 3 ratings. Either you have positive certification, qualified, or you default. And we have positive certification, which is the highest rating from the county superintendent of schools. That has not changed before that person wrote his opinion or after. So therefore, I think people should be assured that the district is in financially sound, and that's based on the rating, the objective rating and analysis that we received from the only organization that matters, and that's the county superintendent of schools, because they're the ones who, once they deem you're defaulted, that the state comes in and takes over your district. Nothing's changed. So for whatever the reason this person wrote his opinion, it doesn't mean anything. It's not his role, and it's totally invalid.
All right, thank you so much.
Well said, and enough said on that. And final 2 comments. One, board, just as a reminder, our 7th annual community gathering is taking place this Thursday, November 8th at the National Orange Show. Continental breakfast available at 8 a.m. Program starting at 9. We will have a hosted VIP lunch. As a reminder, this is where we're showcasing our pathways and partnerships in Generation Go. So we hope that you can participate in whole or in part. And then in closing, I'd like to congratulate board member Dr. Margaret Hill for being selected as recipient of the Champion Award at this year's Inland Empire Hispanic Leadership Council at their annual gala this Friday. Congratulations, Dr. Hill, and thank you for your continued support, leadership, and example. Those are my comments. Oh, I apologize. I have one more comment. I wanted to have Dr. Perez briefly mention to you an information item that she's put at your dais. So Dr. Perez, if you could please just briefly update the board.
Thank you, Dr. Marsden. So what you have here is the ongoing student services counseling update, and it is it's 3 pages with some data that the board has asked for with relationship to specific data and strategies to meet student needs. It is not comprehensive. I do want you to know that we are working on a comprehensive counseling strategic plan as was requested by the board. Our team is with that work underway now, but we wanted to provide you with some data related to FAFSA and application and completion, and some upcoming FAFSA workshops that are taking place across our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Perez. Those are all my comments.
All right, and before moving forward, I know Dr. Hill had a comment to make.
And I apologize, I missed this one, but I just want you to acknowledge the Courageous Summit that was held Saturday, was sponsored by the EL department, Anna Applegate, and the DLAC parents were there. And it's what I call the Idea Summit, because there was a very diverse group of young people there, and I looked around that room and I said, now this is how it's done. So I just want to give them credit for that. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. We're going to go ahead and go to 12.0, consent calendar. Can I have a motion? Okay, and then a discussion, any items to be pulled?
I'd like to pull 12.9, 12.17, and 12.26.
Any others to be pulled? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay, motion carried. Let's go ahead and go to 12.9.
Did you have that one too?
Which is on page...
It's on page 8.
And page 10, I see it, well, unless I have a different page. Okay, go ahead.
I'm uncomfortable with approving this, and I'll tell you why. It's based on the speed of trust, number one, in terms of transparency. I think we have to be transparent to the public in terms of all fiduciary. Secondly, we have fiduciary responsibility as board members.
Can I make sure I'm reading the right one? It's 12.9, authorization to approve workers' compensation and liability settlement agreements?
Right, correct. Okay. That's correct. And it's asking to authorize that Jeffrey Haynes, the Director of Risk Management, be authorized to settle compensation agreements up to $25,000. I think we need to know all liability settlements and agreements and approve them. Whether it's 1,000, whether it's 10,000, you know, I just think we have to be transparent. That's my comment. I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything about it.
So I don't understand. So then, how many cases do we have that are within that 1,000 to 25,000 so far? I mean, are there many cases that we have to see, or is that why we don't necessarily have them come up?
They currently have authority to, because we were self-funded, to approve all. And so I was trying to be a little more consistent and bring anything over 25,000.
Okay.
And there's a lot of small ones. So, I mean, if you want to see them all, it's just, there's quite a bit of small ones. And it's complicated between compromise and release, medical payment. I mean, it's very complex. And so I wanted any payout of 25,000 or more to come to the board.
Okay.
And Ms. Christakis, just a clarifying point. Let's say that, you know, the amount was reduced to something different. Would that in any way hinder the timing? Because I know you then wait, instead of having the authority to do it any time, you've got to wait until the board takes action. So hypothetically, you could have a hold on taking action on a settlement for up to, you know, 30 days if you had that much of time, or 21 days until between.
And some of them are simple, you
Yeah.
know, and they're small amounts that they do in the course of their day-to-day work.
Okay, thank you.
And then Mr. Geller, you were gonna
Yeah, and I
mention
know
something?
that, and Janie, you mentioned it, but this includes like all medical payments and other kinds of things. You know, 25,000 could be racked up pretty
Pretty easy, yeah.
You
And
know,
so we're asking
that's not
for-
an unreasonable amount for
For
say, a substantial injury, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I just look at, you know, myself, and heck, I'd be around the board, right? If it was a workers' compensation claim, it'd be at the board every month.
And what we're talking about here is when there's actually a cash payment. So part of anything that is related to medical is part of their ongoing, that we do on a day-to-day
Okay, so
business.
that's not included in
Yeah,
this
no.
25. This is,
No.
this is some.
A cash
addition-
payout.
Okay, well, then, okay, I understand Barbara's comment, yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
And so even if it's, we would have record or know of it, or do we see this?
We have, and workers' comp has the information, it's highly, as you know,
But
confidential.
unless we requested it, we would not see what
Correct.
it was or what it was.
We bring you reports about once a year. I can look and see if we've listed that for you.
Okay.
Okay, and then Dr. Hill, you had a comment?
Well, I just had a question. Even up to this 25,000, and I know Dr. Flores is concerned about the transparency, but we can get that information. You'll have that information that
Sure.
you'll provide to us.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one last
Yes.
comment. The reason I'm raising the question is because we haven't gotten a report in many years related to any kind of settlement. And I think that, you probably have been paying these out and we haven't approved them. So, you know, bringing it up, I just, I would like to know how much we spend. That was one of my questions that I asked, you know, how much money do we spend? How much do we give out? How much, you know, which ones are pending? Which ones, what are the types? I mean, this is money that is public money. It's not our money. It's public money in the community, and it's not just board members, but, you know, everyone, I'm just going back to the speed of trust, transparency. And we're not following being transparent.
So what we're trying to do here is the department had full authority to settle. So I wanted to make sure that you're seeing anything 25,000 or more. There was one case that did come to the board, and what I'll do is I'll pull the report we gave you a couple months ago, and I'll make sure that it has I'll reach out to you and make sure it has all the information you want in that report.
I mean, like Mrs. Rogers said, you know, you gave us that report, and that's because I asked for it. But we hadn't seen any of those payments as to what had been, you know, paid out. And if I hadn't asked that, we wouldn't have gotten it, Mrs. Rogers. We wouldn't have known and had a record and known what it is. And so, you know, I take my responsibilities very seriously in terms of the fiduciary oversight. Not saying that you're doing anything wrong. I just need to know.
Sure.
We all need to know, you know, where the money goes and how much and so
What
forth.
may be helpful is that we can provide the board a summary of the points in time where you would see these
Right,
updates,
that's
because there are
what-
times you do see them. They might be embedded within some other reports, but we can bring those to the surface. You would, if I'm correct, there are areas within our budget where you would see those items raised, if I'm.
Well, we see it in the budget, but we don't see it in a report. We haven't until recently, until Ms. Christakis generated it.
So I'll make sure you get on a more regular basis. If I recall, it's about once a year that we present it to you. So I'll look and make sure that you get it on a more regular basis.
All right, and then I'll have Mr. Tillman after that, Mr. Gallo, and then Ms. Rogers.
Yes, and I think it's good we're going to get the report, and I know we do see it from time to time, but I also think that this is reasonable when you say up to $25,000. You know, the thing I hear the most in terms of the workman's comp is the frustration from employees that we don't process it fast enough, and a lot of them are out there suffering and waiting for payments, and so we want to make sure we are able to expedite and give them the payments that they're supposed to get. I've never heard that we don't take enough time to process workers' comp. Every time I ever heard from employees, because they're frustrated because the process doesn't move fast enough and they're not getting their payment. So I think it's fair to say that you want to have the authority to give up to $25,000, and then anything above that, then it'll come to the board for the board approval. So
I would be okay with that, with the caveat that we get a report on a
routine.
regular basis
Yeah, I think she's-
of all those that we
Absolutely.
allocate, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion and add that, just want to amend what's here to say that, meaning that we'll get a report routinely once a month in our board correspondence.
Right. I second it.
Here's quarterly. All right, thank you.
I second it.
Okay. Mr. Gallo?
Yeah, and Janie, did we kind of took this in-house? We've been self-insured probably for a while, I guess. But we administer it in-house now, or do we actually have contractual support to
We
administer?
have contractual support
Yeah,
at this
and
time.
that seems to work out better for us?
It does, because
Yeah.
of the expertise of the workers' comp. As you know, it's very complicated.
Mhm.
So when I started, we were still self-managing all of that. And now we are working with Keenan and Associates that.
And I recall that was expediting, that just initiating through that, it did expedite some of the cases that were, kind of going on for a long time. I know we've resolved during that time period when you made that change.
We had over 1,100 open claims, and we're now at about 480.
Right.
So that,
Yeah.
for our size of our district, that's
Mhm.
about right.
Yes. Okay, great, thank you.
All right, Ms. Rogers? did
And
you
that
have-
was, yeah, as long as that's included in just whatever time frames that makes
The
sense.
quarterly,
And, if it's quarterly, whatever that time frame is, I think that'll correct it, and then we'll see it.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Mr. Tillman that in addition to 12.9 language, we're going to add that we receive a quarterly report on what's going on with that. Okay? So then, and then Dr. Flores seconded, so now I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay, motion carried. Let's go to 12.17.
Just a point of clarification, Dr. Marsden, and I assume it's Dr. Mitchell, because is it under you?
Let me
No.
just read it to ratification of the master
Oh,
agreement
okay,
with
yeah.
Gardner Holt Education through Imagination LCC to provide professional development and instructional materials and supplies. Go ahead.
Oh, so it's
So Ms. Christakos, I believe.
So it's all the school sites and CAPS. I believe it was 38 school sites that are, so we put it all together in one board approval.
Oh, so this is for CAPS?
Only part of it is for CAPS and 38 of our school sites.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, for which schools and for what programs.
Yeah.
Okay, so moved.
Okay, any discussion, further discussion? If not, let's go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, motion carried. Let's go to 12.26. Let me read the title before we move on. 12.26. Hold on, give me a sec. That is ratification of the authorization to approve special education settlement agreements. Dr. Flores?
Yeah, is this just because, I think we've approved this already, but we're just changing the name?
That's accurate.
Is that?
Yes, so
Is that-
changing the name to Dr. Lundy.
Okay, because she's the acting director.
She's,
Oh,
no,
she is the director. Okay. And do we also get updates of, I think I had requested that a long time ago, to get updates as well, quarterly reports of, the amounts that we pay out for special ed. If I recall correctly.
I think those are brought to you.
Yeah, isn't the stuff we discussed in closed session?
Right.
Oh, so
No,
we,
she's saying up
Oh.
to 10,000. Do you bring them now? You have brought
if
them
it's
under.
beyond 10,000, I bring them. If it's less than 10,000, then Dr. Lundy takes care of that, and so
Right.
that they can move the work forward.
But I remember this item, and I think we also said we just wanted a report on what, the ones less than 10,000, so that we know how much and how many. Yeah, yeah. Do you want to say something? You agree? Dr. Wyatt agrees, okay. All right.
And so a quarterly report of how much at each quarter and the actual number of settlements? Okay.
Yeah. So moved.
I need a second. Okay, any discussion? Now let's go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, motion carried. We're going to go ahead and go to 13.0, action items. 13.1, personnel report number nine, dated November the 6th, 2018. Dr. Wiseman,
As presented.
So moved.
Second.
any discussion? If not, let's go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carried. And let me read the language here. Is be resolved that the personnel report number 9, dated November 6th, 2018, be approved as presented. So which we already did. 12.2, amendments to BP
13.2.
What did I just say?
12.
Oh, my goodness, and I'm wearing my glasses. 12.2. Oh, I said it again. You know what? Maybe it's anyways, let me just go forward. 13.2, amendments to BP 4030, non-discrimination. See, I'm already, my goodness.
Yeah, and just as a reminder,
employment,
board.
first reading.
Yeah, just as a reminder, these are the policies related to our discussion with the incident involving Lancashire. We wanted to surface these policies. The Policy Review Committee took an initial look and gave some feedback. And then what you have is some of that feedback illustrated within this in the red ink, updating the policies based on more current laws, et cetera. And so this would be your, as Ms. Medina mentioned, the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, yes, Dr. Flores?
On page 37, under the section, because of the Me Too movement, I wanted to add a few things. I don't know if you all are in agreement with it or not, but if you go down to the 5th line, I'll read the whole thing. Romantic, it says consensual sexual relationships. Romantic or sexual relationships of any employee with elementary or secondary students is clearly prohibited pursuant to state molestation laws concerning adults and children. Romantic or sexual relationships between an adult, student, and faculty member, or between a subordinate employee and his or her superior can raise serious concerns where there may be a conflict of interest and abuse of power. And I wanted to add, and are also prohibited, because it doesn't say that it's prohibited. And then
And I need to find it because I'm on a different.
page 37.
Let me try that one.
Did everybody find it?
Okay, I read it now. Okay, I couldn't.
It only says a conflict of interest and abuse of power, and I wanted to add, and are also prohibited.
So
That
Well,
one's
but it says,
that one's consensual.
And maybe. So the legal, just be interesting. I mean, if it's prohibited, then it's not maybe, there's no maybe in it. It's, if it's prohibited, it's prohibited.
Oh,
And
so I should change the verb maybe. where there,
I'm just thinking,
where there are,
if this represents the legal language that's an update to the various policies
well, then
being
I think we
cited
need
here,
to find out.
then I think we would want to, at least
Yeah, my
an initial.
my understanding in recent conversation with legal counsel has been that we may not be able to prohibit relationships, but you can state that there may be a conflict of interest, but we'll look into that.
I would like you to
we'll
look
look
into
into
it.
that.
You're talking about amongst adults.
Adults, correct.
You're talking about amongst
Well,
adults. Okay, yeah.
that's what that, I think the latter.
Could you
reference
look into
is
it?
for.
We'll look into it,
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
Right.
And then after 9, it says all the things that you shouldn't do, right? That are sexual harassment.
Right.
For discrimination, in the front part of it, we had the verbs pursuing, intimidating, harassing, and bullying. So I wanted to add pursuing, intimidating, harassing, and bullying sexual behavior at workplace and/or after work.
Is that for
For adults.
For adults.
For adults.
So the thing is that would that be consensual? I mean, that's the thing.
Yes.
No, this would not be consensual. This
Okay,
is
'cause I'm-
where they're harassing and bullying
finding
and
that yet.
intimidating. I'll give it to you, Doctor.
Yeah, we're taking copious notes, and so if you
And I'll
have-
give you
thank
this so that you
We
can look into
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah, because I'm
Will
not
do.
finding it. I'm on a
We can do
different
that.
different page here. I'm trying to look for it. Oh, adding to this. Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Dr. Flores.
Right. And then it says disciplinary action up to and including termination will be promptly taken against any employee, non-supervisory, supervisor, or manager if it becomes known to management that such a person has engaged in conduct prohibited by this policy. And I would like to add, in addition, hidden negotiations or cover-ups are also prohibited. And I would like the attorney to look into that.
We
Yeah, I
can-
would
we
like
can
the
have the
attorney to
attorney
look
look
into
into
that too.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm kind of just trying
And
to
then
make
you'll
sure
give
that
me
we're-
all your notes, Dr.
Yes,
Flores.
I'll give
Okay,
them to
thank
you
you.
right
Thank
now.
you so much.
All right, perfect.
Appreciate it.
Well, but the thing is that we're not going to necessarily approve it as with.
No, this
with
is the
edits.
first reading.
Okay, the first reading.
Yeah, so what you're doing is taking, so now you've had this conversation, you'd vote on it, then we'd bring back, we'd take this to legal counsel and bring you back the second reading that might reflect any
Okay.
changes that can
Just
stand the
making
test
sure.
of legal
Okay.
counsel.
All right, so then we have a motion, we have a second. Let's go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carried on the first reading. 13.3, approval of the fall 2018 California School Dashboard Local Indicators Report.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carried. Let's go to 13.4, consideration and approval of the amendment of to employment contract superintendent. And let me see, I think there are several on this one. So there is, so I guess the recommendation would be, should we vote on all 13 point, oh, first we have to approve the first one and then we'll move into this, the 13.5 and through 13.11. Okay.
Well, move, yeah.
Any discussion?
You mean 13.4?
13.4, but in the notes that I have here, I have the recommendation from 13.5 through 13.11 to vote as one. And
Yes.
then
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's up to you as a board how you want to break it up.
I'd move that we approve it all at once.
13.4 all the way through
That's what I would
13.11.
do.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and call for the vote. All's in favor say aye.
Aye.
All's opposed say nay. Okay, motion carried. 13.12, resolution for the approval of renewal of the charter petition of Empire Academy by the governing board of trustees of the San Bernardino City Unified School District. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and call for the vote. All's in favor say aye.
Aye.
All's opposed say nay. Okay, motion carried. Okay, let's go to 13.13.
So move.
Approval of the memorandum of understanding by and between the San Bernardino City Unified School District and Empire Academy. Any
So-
discussion?
We need a second. Yeah, okay.
Okay, any discussion? If not, let's go ahead and call for the vote. All's in favor say aye.
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 All's opposed say nay. Motion carried. That was passed. Let's 13.14, resolution of the approval renewal of the charter petition of New Vision Middle School by the governing board of trustees of the San Bernardino City Unified School District.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Before we call for the vote, I think I should read this. Be it resolved that the Board of Education City Unified School District finds the above listed recitals to be true and correct and incorporates them herein by this reference. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education Board hereby extends the charter for a 5-year term commencing on July 1st, 2019 and ending on June 30th, 2024. So we have any discussion? We have a motion and we have a second. Let's go ahead and call for the vote. All's in favor say aye.
Aye.
All's opposed say nay. Motion carried. 13.15, memorandum of understanding by and between the San Bernardino City Unified School District and New Vision Middle School. Be resolved that the Board of Education approves the memorandum of understanding and by and between the San Bernardino City Unified School District and New Vision School as presented. So I need a motion.
So move.
Any discussion? If not, let's go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carried. 13.16, resolution for support of application for career technical education facilities program.
So moved.
Any discussion? Now let's go ahead and call for the vote. All's in favor say aye.
Aye.
All's opposed say nay. Motion carried. 13.17, board.
So moved.
Okay, any discussion?
Like to move 17, 18, 19,
Okay.
and 20.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Everyone's okay with that?
Yep.
Let's go ahead and call for the vote. All's in favor say aye.
Aye.
All's opposed say nay. Motion carried. Okay, so now we are going to 14.0 summary of board requests. Dr. Volkemer, will you now summarize board requests?
Thank you, Madam President. The follow-ups I have from this board meeting are as follows. Make sure that the board gets a copy of the early literacy plan. And then there's a follow-up in terms of an update on Footsteps to Brilliance. And there was a request by Dr. Flores to connect the early literacy plan and the work with Footsteps to Brilliance. I had those as two separate items, but I know there's a connection there. There's a request to see the data for our English learners from our high school as well as math, and that would include LTELs and formative data as well. Also, a follow-up report on Ds and Fs by student groups, and that would include all subjects, not just for Ds and Fs, not just language arts and math. Analyze the need for additional support personnel when it comes in relation to our program specialists, OGSs, et cetera. Make sure we have what we need as we're moving the program forward. And then finally, quarterly reports from special education in terms of settlements. Did I get everything? Yeah, I had that in the discussion that followed. Thank you.
Okay, great. We are going to be going to closed session. We will not be reporting out. Oh, we will be? We will be reporting out, okay. So then, we will go ahead and head to closed session. Thank you, everyone. All right, we are coming back from closed session. We do have a quorum. So now, coming back from closed session, let me go ahead and read out. Be resolved that the Board of Education accepts the notice of recommendation for disciplinary action and statement of charges to suspend without pay for 5 days the following classified employee from his or her employment with the district, HR Class 181904. Also, be it resolved that the Board of Education accepts the notice of recommendation for disciplinary action and statement of charges to dismiss the following classified employee from his or her employment with the district, HR 181902. And then be it resolved that the Board of Education accepts the notice of recommendation for disciplinary action and statement of charges to suspend without pay for 2 days of the following classified employee from his or her employment with the district, HR Class 181903. And be resolved that the Board of Education accepts the notice of recommendation for disciplinary action, statement of charges to dismiss the following classified employee from his or her employment with the district, HR 181905. Can I have a motion? Any discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carried. So then we're going to go ahead. I need a motion to adjourn. Okay, second. Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Good night, everyone.